Sup, nerds? James here with Nerd Alert, and I'm here with my dad. And today we are talking about something I feel incredibly fortunate to have finally seen: the theatrical releases of A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi.
So there's been a lot of talk that a British theater has announced that they are going to be showing on June 12th the original theatrical film version of the original trilogy. Actually, I don't know if it's the original trilogy or just A New Hope.
I believe it's just A New Hope.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, I'm fortunate enough, way back when, I bought the DVD steelbook case for the original trilogy, and it included an unedited version of the movies Star Wars, I'm sorry, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. These, though, are DVD, like I said, and if you're not in the know, that's way okay, but let me explain. That means these are not HD. These are 480p maximum. These were definitely not transferred to be the best digital presentation. So when they say they're releasing these other films on film, we cannot compare when it comes to that, because we could definitely see some deficiencies in the video quality. So I am curious what an actual film of this would look like. But so you're aware, we watched the DVD version, which is not high definition, of A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. One of the cool things about this is James, his whole life, has only ever seen the edited versions, the 97 versions, and the touch-ups they've done to that since then. And one of the famous things with George Lucas is, yes, he had a treatment for this whole idea, but it was not hammered out to what the mythos is now. Simple, like, well, Luke and Leia were not brother and sister originally. Originally, it was not Darth Vader as Luke's father. So these things, as you watch the originals that have not been edited and the story is intact from the original, there are definitely some questions that come about. But to the point, James, what did you think of this new version of Star Wars that you've never seen but had heard of?
The new version, that's the old version that George Lucas doesn't want anybody to see. I adore it. As much as I do appreciate the digital touch-ups in the new versions, and it makes them way easier to watch, way easier on the eyes. I love being able to watch a film and like see how all the different components came together to make said film. And I really appreciate that as I was watching A New Hope, I could see all the different design aspects that came together. And like, yeah, some of them are goofy. There's a droid that's just like mechanical arms, and it's like, what the hell does it do? And it's just clearly somebody just taped a bunch of shit together and they were like, oh, cool, we have a new prop. But it's like, you see those little things, and it really makes it makes me appreciate the filmmaking aspect of it so much more, because I can see the different components of it that were carried the whole way through the process. Also, it's just fun to see like the stupid arm droid show up in two movies, and it's like, you could tell they were just reusing a prop, but it's so funny.
And Gonk, we see him several times, like, hey, what's up, dude?
I love Gonk. I don't know why Gonk exists, but Gonk is best droid without question. And then there's the one droid. It's the dude with the ice cream machine in Cloud City.
And it was interesting to watch it in this way. Again, it was not pristine. One of the things, like, I have very fond memories, and the one thing, we will break down some of the scenes that are very different. The one thing that I really was looking forward to was watching this unedited and in my childhood and really remembering it from that standpoint. It was rough. The quality was atrocious. You could see a lot of the blue screen effects as they, superimposed, and you're like, ooh, space does not look nearly as good in this version. One of the funny parts was, because it was 480 and they clearly didn't color correct it as well as they could have, the blacks were not as black as they should have been. So we could see a lot of the, not necessarily airs, but things in the background that I don't think necessarily we should have. But other things like dewbacks, I remember seeing those put in for 97. I don't remember them being as clear as day as they are in the original version. So when I saw that, I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Then
To
there's
see
the
it
single
come
guy
back,
in the back, like on the top of the dune on one, and
yes,
it's like, okay.
sure, cool. But seeing a lot of those sort of background things that we weren't really supposed to see detail of, but now you can, was very interesting. Like in the Jawa sandcrawler, seeing all the droids sort of there in the background. Similarly, in the cantina, just seeing a little more of the background. It was funny. Like we're not supposed to see that, but definitely it was there just because it was not a great quality transfer. But back to one of the first major differences, and I know it's not, we're not getting to the Han Solo one yet, was Kenobi when he first sees Luke, and what noise does he make?
I don't know. It's just some weird freaking noise.
And it's those little things that you forget, like, wow, that is a big deal. That what is that? It's a crate dragon. Oh, well, that doesn't sound scary to what it is now, where you're like, the hell is that thing? And it's like, yeah, that reverberates through the whole damn valley.
It's so interesting because it's like I mean, I do agree with some of the changes Lucas made, and then I don't agree with some of the changes Lucas made. And this is the one where it's like it doesn't change anything. So what was the point? It's like you went from just a dude making a screech noise to a like an actual dragon, and it's like, okay, this doesn't change anything, but okay.
And I mean, it's not since in 97 when he changed the sound the first time, but since that 1977 reveal of what a Krayt dragon sounds like, we've actually seen it now in, I can't remember if it was Book of Boba Fett or The Mandalorian. I think it was The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
We've seen it now. So if I associate that tiny sound with what we saw versus the big sound we now hear to what we see now, and you're one of the few people in the world that was born after 97 that has seen the original now, you'd have no clue there was a difference. No clue at all.
Exactly, and it's just interesting. It's a very interesting change. What I will say is absolutely impressive, and I think is like the status quo is the fact that like the first 10 minutes are basically untouched, and that you have Tantive 4 getting captured by the Imperial starship, Vader coming, the Star Destroyer, Vader coming on to Tantive 4, getting to Leia, and then the droids going to the desert. All of that is basically untouched. And that is so impressive to me that it's like you basically have this 10-minute stretch of 1977 filmmaking that was so good that for 50 years now, almost, well, we're getting to 50 years, give it 2 more years, that has remained untouched and only digitally and visually touched up. It hasn't been like done over with CGI. The models and everything has been left in. It's the same acting, same everything. It's all the same, and it's so impressive to me that that has remained basically the same and so good.
That's why I really would be curious to see this on film. And usually I'm not that guy. I've been criticized about that before. I literally have been to film school. I've cut my films on film. So I'm educated about the process. I usually am not the guy like, oh, I've got to go see this on film. But in this case, to see an untouched version of Lucas's cinematography, a lot of people don't know this, but that's what he was really known for in film school. A lot of his camera choices, and he wanted to be sort of this avant-garde filmmaker and not really do stories or narratives. But I would love to see the Tunisian desert and the rocks and the sunset and all that stuff, the two suns on film with the rich saturation that the film can handle, because digital, like HD or even 4K, is great. It looks beautiful, but it just cannot hold the spectrum of colors and information that film can, and the grain. So I'd be curious to see that. Very, very curious.
Yeah, and there's a reason when people think of movies from the 50s, 60s, 70s, they think of those like bright colors that pop, because that's what Technicolor was. And it's you lose some of that with digital. And it's like, yeah, you can still watch Technicolor movies, but it's like to be able to actually watch the film itself, not transferred to digital. It's like I would give gladly to be able to see that because it's such a different experience.
Well, it's funny because you asked me while we're watching the first one, how did they do this? And I'm like, well, blue
It's
screen. Like, just blue screen. I'm like, duh. And then it really got to the process of, oh my gosh, yes, it's been forever since I had to think of editing in that way. So we looked it up and it is layering upon layering upon layering to get the
oh,
shots that you want. And it's like, oh my goodness, I'd forgotten. Versus nowadays, you go into whatever program you're using, Adobe After Effects, for example, and you just bloop, take this color out, cool, add this background, cool, fix it, cool. So much easier.
I cannot fathom having to do that process on proper film. It's like, thank God we have Adobe and whatever else to run it for us because I am not the person who wants to sit in the studio for like 3 hours parsing through different film reels to have to get the right layering. And then it's like, if you goof up a single section, you have to go back and do it again. It's like, I
Well,
don't want to do that.
it's more than that. We've talked about this briefly before, and sorry for the film lesson. Nowadays, because it's all digital, it's non-destructive. When you would edit film, you are literally cutting into a physical thing and then taping it back together. Now, we're talking about frames. Well, if you get to a point where like, ooh, I know this sounds dumb. I need one more second, 24 frames, or I need 12 frames, half a second. You got to go find that exact piece of film that you had at the end of this, splice it back together, tape it back together, and you have literally destroyed physical whatever. And it's not just as simple as undo.
And it's not like it's not obvious. You can tell on older film when there's like a rough cut or something because it's like you can just see like a slight frame shift or there's like something off and it's you can definitely see this with these is that it's like every moment there's blue screen you can see like a green or red stripe from the color filtering they did that it's like oh they used a green screen here like the worst offender and it's absolutely a product of its time is when Han and Luke are in the cockpit watching hyperspace, and you can tell it is so obviously blue screened.
Yeah, it was, and that's where I was talking about. It was just rough. But let's get to probably the most important scene, and people frequently say a certain phrase that Han shot first, and I argue that is incorrect. Han shot. Greedo did not. What were your thoughts when he finally came to that?
I didn't realize how fast it was going to be because I'm so used to the original like fast one, or well, the one where Greedo and then Han, and then now they shoot at the same time, and it's such like a clusterfuck. I was expecting it to be a little more drawn out with how much people harp on this point, and it just happens, and it's like, okay, yeah, Han shot. I mean, yeah, I get the characterization, but like it's not that big a deal. I mean, again, I get the difference in characterization, and it's definitely a writing thing where it's like when you have Han not shooting first, that's not Han Solo. That's Derp Glorp Shido or whatever joke character the fandom has made. But it's like when he shoots first, it's Han Solo being like, I don't want to deal with this. It's he's trigger happy. He's like,
Well, and that's my argument, and I agree. It's as much as I love Star Wars, this is just a footnote. But when you look at the introduction of Han Solo, the character I was first introduced to, you have this badass who sits down with this dude who's trying to give him a shakedown, trying to collect his bounty, and he just shoots him. There is no response from Greedo. He's just dead. Dead, dead, dead. And then the capper, he slowly, calmly walks over to the bartender, flips him a coin. Sorry about the mess. And leaves. What a fucking badass.
I
Now, though,
know.
you change it to be, oh, he was reacting. And it's like, that's
It's
not as piratey, smuggler dude that we first learned of in Han Solo. And that's why that's disappointing to me.
No, I completely get that. And I love it because the character I know of Han Solo is this dorky dude who somehow survives most every scrap he gets into. To me, this reads as he pulled the trigger, didn't realize he pulled the trigger until Greedo's dead, and he's like, roll with it, we got this.
Well, there are a couple of
planned
those
it.
things that are established in A New Hope that have really not stood the test of time. Namely, those what are those shots are too precise for sand people. Only
But
stormtroopers are so precise, or whatever the exact line
But
is. Like,
what's so brilliant is that it's like Alec Guinness reads it as if it's almost sarcastic.
that
That
is
it's
true.
so then when Luke says you can't see a thing in these, it's like to me it reads as Obi-Wan being like, "Oh yeah, the Imperial frickin' troopers here, they have such great aim." And then Luke's like, "I can't see a thing in these things." It's like he's throwing shade at the troopers. And it's
Well,
like you
that
kind
goes
of get
back to again Obi-Wan, Alec Guinness with his just sneaky looks like you don't know when I'm telling the truth, and then to come back with Return of the Jedi from a certain point of view, it's like,
it,
dude, you're a liar. Awesome.
you don't get Star Wars being as cohesive as it is without Alec Guinness having those micro reactions to things. You don't get the entirety of Revenge of the Sith without Obi-Wan being like, and then him smiling when he sees Luke and Leia. Sure, the original script didn't have any idea that those two were siblings or that they could have redeemed Vader as a character, but it's like Obi-Wan knows that they can save everybody. And so he's like, he knows he succeeded and he smiles. And it's just those little things that really make it cohesive. I mean, look at Yoda. People give Luke crap in the sequel trilogy for being a ruined old man. What do you think Yoda is? He fucked off to Dagobah because he failed. He
Yeah,
is
ass
Luke
kicked by
becomes.
Sidious.
Exactly. I love that meme where it's damn it, where Samuel Jackson is his character in Kingsman, and he's like, kill that motherfucker, he killed all our friends. And it's Yoda and Sidious fighting. I love that meme. But it's like Yoda was ruined because he failed. And so he basically disappeared. And then Luke comes in and he's like, oh, the one person who could probably save us all.
It was also funny watching this sort of with fresh eyes because I was actually watching it. I've literally seen this, I don't know, maybe 1,000 times. And to sit down and actually watch it is not something I normally do. Usually it's on the background or what have you. And I know some of this is rationalization, but when we first meet Obi-Wan and he's bending over Luke and he's putting his hand on his head and like, yeah, I totally get it. I never thought of it when I first was a kid, but yeah, he's force healing. Totally get it because Luke totally backed up and bonked out completely. But the other one, and I get it, it's rationalization. There's a time there where Luke is out, C-3PO's knocked over, and it's really just Kenobi and R2. He goes, hello there. And he like almost recognition, but once everybody else is alert, it's like, no, we can't. We know each other. We can't admit that though. And it's like,
yeah.
Yeah, I just love that, looking at it from that point of view, a certain point of view, that it made me happier.
And there's like a little moment where Obi-Wan like gives R2 a look of like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
How did you get here? And he knows 3PO's memory has been wiped, but he doesn't know if R2's has. And Obi-Wan just has this moment of like, how did you get here? How are you here right now?
Exactly. And in R2 of everybody is really the only one that knows every single thing that's happened since the Trade Federation on Naboo, all the way up to that point of A New Hope and being with Rebellion.
It's so funny. And it's like, again, Alec Guinness, and nobody on that set knew what this would become. But it's just that little reaction that like brings it all together, that it's like he's looking at this droid like, I came to this desert planet so nobody would come here and find me or this kid. Yeah. How did you get here?
Exactly. And now that we've seen Kenobi, the TV show, that's even more precious to have Leia talking to him, knowing that they've already had this wonderful adventure. And it's like,
I love her in that show. I don't care if her acting's a little off. She's a kid, but it's like she is very much Anakin given flesh. And you can tell Obi-Wan is like, God damn it, why?
And I know it's just silly. And again, I'm reading into it, but she is channeling Carrie Fisher.
Oh
She
yes.
is so that little girl is so pretentious, so like I am a princess, god damn it, and I just love it. Love her.
My father will come for me.
Yeah, I love it. And the difficult time she gives Kenobi because she's like, I don't know you. Awesome. But then the next big
Yeah.
one we come to, which um is an omission more than anything. Like, I think you've seen the behind the scenes of what the real original shoot looked like, but obviously you've seen what the new scene looks like because you've seen, to you, Boba Fett was introduced here as far as seeing him in armor and all that, and seeing
I
Jabba.
I didn't know that scene just wasn't in it ever. That blew my mind. I thought there was like, I thought they just almost like rotoscoped or like did some motion cap work with the Jabba model they now put in this new scene. But now it's like, it was never there to begin with. They just get to the Falcon and go. And it's so weird that it's like Jabba isn't introduced properly until episode 6. Boba Fett isn't properly introduced until episode 5. So it's just get to the Falcon and go. And it really, it honestly makes Han more of a badass that he's not like dealing with the bureaucracy of Jabba. There's not Boba Fett being set up, which to me is a weird story beat because it makes more sense to me that Boba would be introduced in episode 5. Like him just being there is like, okay, I don't see why he's here, but
It was 100% fan service, and I mean, he literally looks at the screen, and it's like,
wow,
even in
thank
'97
you.
when I first saw that, I was like, yeah, cool. Oh, that's weird.
It's like when Jack Nicholson looked at the camera in The Shining. It's like, don't do that. No, stop it. That's bad.
I did forget to bring up one thing, which is the most recent addition, and as far as I know, the last a recent addition, and it was done when Disney bought them, and I don't know who wanted this. It had to be Lucas. When Greedo yells McClunky, I still don't know what that is.
McClunky.
Like, one of the like I said, I've seen this thousands of times, and then when I was listening, like, wait, what the hell just changed? That was not having that completely was awesome.
Oh yeah, it gives me like Carabast vibes, where it's like it's just like a curse, but like it means nothing to us because we don't live in this culture. But it's so funny the little changes that are like, what was the point of this?
Exactly. And it was just literally hearing it and knowing it, and there should be a pattern and be like, wait, I've never heard that word before. And
yeah. And I will say thank you to the people who have gone in and done extensive work on that Jabba scene, because it looks so much better seeing Han step on his tail now than it was in the DVD versions when they first did that digital enhancement. Because it's like, whoop, whoop. It's like you literally just shifted his image in the scene up and down, and it's like you can tell. Now they fixed it so it's a little more smooth, but it's like, thank you for fixing that because it's really obvious.
well, those are one of the things that I do think it was fan service at the time, but now that that has become canon and that's really the only version people know, it makes perfect sense. Because even when the Millennium Falcon shoots out of the spaceport, Mos Eisley, that's not shown in the one we watched. All you see is them in space. And it's like that little added CG of it rising out and basically going off planet. You're like, necessary. As weird as it was like, I missed that.
Yeah. It's oh god, I'm already blanking on what the proper terminology for that kind of shot is, but it's like you need that. It's a transition shot. You need that to convey that people got there. It's like, yeah, you can fill in the gaps in your own head, but it's like it's not easy to do that when you don't have that jump as a cut. And it's what I really like about this is from a historical and cultural point of view, this is how mythology worked. You had the original story, and then you had one person reworking it as they went. And then after that's done, people took that and then reworked it to their liking. Look at the Odyssey. The original draft that Homer wrote is not the draft we know. He continuously revised it and republished it and redistributed it across ancient Greece. And this is what we're seeing with Star Wars. Lucas made the original, and then he went back in and touched it up and changed things. And from a historical standpoint, we are watching modern mythology as it unfolds, and it is so fascinating to just see that. But enough of the really nerdy stuff. Next, we get to. I love Star Wars space scenes because they are so technically impressive. But goddamn, they are rough in Episode 4. Ooh.
And this is where I was talking about. You see, like the edges of the cockpit, and it should be much darker, much blacker. But now we're seeing grays, and we're like, ugh. But then we're also seeing, like James mentioned, the blue screen lines where the special effect was. And then we're seeing some awful meteor footage and blur lines to get the light speed. And you're like, I had not realized how much work they had done to touch it up until
my God. Yeah, and it's like, I know exactly how they shot the asteroids. It was just glitter. You just had someone over it, dusting glitter over the camera, and it's so obvious. And it's honestly kind of comical.
It was rough. And that's the appreciation I'm giving. Yes, I am frustrated still with Lucas changing Han shooting. But looking at all the other changes, Star Wars is almost unwatchable in that version. Again, I can't talk the film version. I've seen the re-releases and all that, but I've never seen the unedited version in my memory, I should say. Yes, as a kid, but I haven't seen it in so long that I don't remember. So I can't speak to the film version, but watching this DVD version, standard definition, it was rough.
It's like watching 1982 Tron. I love it. I will always rewatch it, but it's like I really have to get into the mindset of it was early for its time. It was revolutionary. It looks stupid. Just go with it. It's like you really got to work hard to suspend your disbelief. And I don't find it hard because it's like I love where I can, like, I don't care if the movie's visual effects are stupid as fuck. It's fun to watch how they put it together. And at least I can appreciate it from that standpoint. Yeah, I'm going to laugh when I see somebody shaking glitter over a camera to simulate asteroids. But at the same time, it's like I can see the errors in the editing. And it's like, ooh.
It was, we forgot. I'm sorry. We forgot about an edit that I still don't understand that you finally got to see.
Oh, yes.
Wolfman in the cantina. Like, I don't know what they figured out. I don't get it. He's not. I don't know. He's not doing anything weird.
Did Warren Zevon file a lawsuit? I mean,
no.
That werewolf was not in London.
I was like, there he is. See, I don't know why it's a one-take Drake that they didn't want, but yeah, that just popped in my head that
and it
was another weird edit that I didn't quite understand.
A lot of the CG characters added into the Mos Eisley scenes. It was weird seeing them not there.
Yeah.
Because it's like I'm so used to seeing it be more lively, and Mos Eisley looks a lot less lively. But I mean, it makes sense. It's during the day. It's meant to be more of a night city because, the desert is fucking hot during the day. I would know. I may or may not have grown up in one. But it's like I get it, and then I get the changes, and it's just interesting seeing that. But I mean, the fucking dude, whatever the fuck with the snoot, he's there. He's still there. That's
another thing we forgot to talk about. Because of the transfer quality, we really got to see some charred remains of Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru.
that is funny to me that it's like, oh well, there's your aunt and uncle, Luke. They didn't have a fun time.
I still like the theory. Now, granted, it makes them as bad, quote unquote, parents or custodians because they fake their own death and get rid of Luke. But given the events of Kenobi and how they stood up to the
freaking Inquisitioner,
yeah. So they
Inquisitor, my bad,
Inquisitors that they faked their deaths so that the Empire would leave them alone. I like that theory, but then it really paints them as bad aunt and uncle and custodians too.
I don't know because at the same time, it's like they understand the importance for Luke. They know that this is crucial for his journey. So at the same time, it's like they could also recognize it as like we have no choice. He has to experience this.
So moving on to some of the other things. The other thing that stood out to me was we see
That's no moon.
Destroyed. Was that impressive or what?
It's so stupid. I'm sorry.
Firecracker.
That's one of the changes I really appreciate about the new stuff is that it's like, yes, thank you for letting me see how they did it originally. It looks dumb as hell.
It literally is a ball with a firecracker and shot in slow motion, and it's impressive for the time. But now that we see like the concussion come off of it and just the digital repercussions, we're like, yeah, that's way cooler than that thing. And then we saw the special effects. Oh, it was so hard with Luke learning, being trained on the Millennium Falcon by Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you see the little blaster dude going around.
Oh my God, it's so obvious, and it's
it
like
reminds me of the early days of Phantasm when you have the silver ball flying around. You're like, wow, that's
and
lame.
it's like it doesn't help that you have the digital re-releases making the explosion 10 times better.
Yeah.
Or Rogue One making just planetary wiping, just surface wiping so much more threatening. So it's like you see this and you're like, it looks like the planet farted itself out of existence.
Yeah. It was. Yeah.
But it is, I do appreciate that they didn't go in and make it so that it looked like modern Michael Bay explosions, where it's like fire explosions. Every one of the pyrotechnics looks like what an actual grenade or like blaster explosion would look like. There's no fire there. It's just a release of pressure, which forms as like Mr. Gas. And so I do appreciate that when they went to do the planet exploding, it looks like how a planet would when it explodes. It's not a giant fiery ball. It's just a release of pressure. Sorry, that's a physics nerd me.
Well, then we get to That's No Moon, and we see it's the same pretty much, except that the layering and the piecing it together, like you see the big ball, and then you see the little Millennium Falcon coming in. You're like, boy, that's rough.
I will say, you go from like a really rough, like pulled back shot of the Death Star to then the beautiful matte painting of its side as the Falcon enters, and it's jarring because you go from this funky, clunky shot that you're like, okay, I see what's going on here, to then like beautiful matte painting, beautiful composition, and you're like, damn, this is the same movie.
But that also then draws your eye to the set design, because as they're running around the Death Star and Kenobi's out turning off the tractor beam, and of course there's no railings anywhere, it's just like, wow, they really did a bang up job creating these interiors. It's amazing. Even going back to Tantive 4 with the interiors, it's like, this is amazing what they're doing here.
I know, right? If I talk to a Star Wars nerd and I say the Empire, the first thing they're going to think of is like the interior of those ships. It is so ingrained because the set design was so damn good. It's like those lights that are like the bars with the rounded edges. It's like everybody knows that's the Empire. Everybody knows that's the bad guys because it's such good set design. Like, you know, when you're inside an Imperial freighter versus a Rebellion freighter, because it's like you just know what's what.
That's very true. So
and honestly, sorry.
We get a gang running around, getting in trouble. Most
3PO!
Pretty much the same, but we see little things like when, hey, come on up here, and they're luring the troopers up. Well, the troopers went through and they don't talk to each other.
No, that was weird.
They talk, and I knew they didn't talk because it bothered me that they have since then. Then you get to C-3PO's explanation when they're going over the plans and that where the tractor beam is, and it's like not an explanation at all. It's like, I don't know, 10 seconds, whereas in the new one he like breaks down everything and whatever, and it's so weird that these little things became bigger, longer explanations. I'm not exactly sure why those changes.
And I can definitely see it as it was like, we don't know how to explain this, so we're going to kind of cheat it by not explaining it, which is like how sci-fi really works. That it's like you say something and then you pretend it's like a given thing. I can definitely see why George Lucas wanted to go in and fully explain it, because he felt like now that he understood, he could do it. And it's like, I get that it's like every science fiction writer wants to explain how the science works. And so that's kind of why he went back in and did that. At the same time, though, it's like, it doesn't take away by not having that explanation.
And then perhaps my favorite choice of all time, the billions of money this movie has made, and the one goof that they did not fix, the stormtrooper still hits his helmet on the door.
And it's...
yes, it would have been a difficult fix, but it frame by frame, you could have erased that dude.
And I deeply appreciate that because over time, stormtroopers have kind of become like the lovable idiots of the Star Wars universe, and they weren't supposed to be. But they kind of are, even in that movie, just unintentionally. You have the two idiots who are welcomed into the ship and then clanked on the head so they get the disguises. You have the dude bonking his head on the door. And then you have the two like talking about ship specs while Obi-Wan is doing stuff. And I love that's become like a modern standard that anytime you have two stormtroopers doing nothing, they're talking about ship specs. It's so funny to me. But it's like, I love that because the character has like his own name. He's his own established character, stormtrooper, whatever. But it's like, I feel like it really helps to characterize that it's like, yeah, they can't see shit in those helmets. And it really shows that they are incompetent soldiers drafted into the Empire forcibly.
Yeah, that's very true. So then we get down to the garbage chute. Everything's pretty much the same here.
Oh, wait, but we can't forget the best improvisation in any Star Wars movie. Fine. How are you? Boring conversation anyways.
Large leak. Yeah. What's your operating number? Boring conversation. Yeah, I agree. This is where Harrison Ford is perfect as Han Solo. And I know I read this recently. I've known this for a while. He wanted to not be Han Solo anymore. And even coming back for the Disney, it was like a paycheck. But that's what makes him Han Solo, is that attitude that he doesn't want to be Han Solo. And it's perfect.
It's like the movie Han Solo characterizes him perfectly. He's improvising the whole way through. Yep. None of that was planned. So everything he's doing, he's pulling the shit out his ass. The Kessel Run, complete accident. Him managing to take down Red Dawn, whatever, Crimson Dawn, complete accident. Him surviving anything, complete accident. So then him pulling this crap where he's like, large leak.
Very dangerous.
Fine. How are you? Boring conversation. It was just like, that's Han Solo. That's Han Solo.
And that gets to my next big one that I remember is they all of a sudden run into stormtroopers as they're trying to find their way back to the Millennium Falcon. And what does Han do? He chases after them. Hilarious. I love this. And then Chewie's like, oh, God damn it. So he chases after Han, and then Luke and Leia are left to their own, like, But what I love is we get to this end, and in the new ones, all of a sudden they're in this spaceport where all these stormtroopers are. Whereas in this version, the original, they just come up to a dead-end wall, and the stormtroopers like, nowhere else to go. Oh, we're going to fight back. And Han's like, oh, shit.
It's like, if it were only the whole hangar of stormtroopers, it would be funny. But because the original version was the dead end where the stormtroopers are like, oh, we got him, it's like that's funnier because you have Han running into this situation where he thinks he's got him on the ropes, and then they turn it back on him, and he's like, oh, shit.
And so now he's got Chewie, and Chewie's like, wait, you just went, oh, shit. Like,
fuck.
But this is like, where it drives me nuts, where people are like, oh, but the original Star Wars, they were made for kids. That is an awesome joke.
I mean,
it's funny, and it's kids.
Exactly. The existence of R2-D2 and 3PO are comic relief every sense of the way. And I saw someone try to say that they are not like, obviously it's a joke, but they tried to say that it's like they don't give off like married gay couple vibes. It's like, have you met a married gay couple? It's just R2-D2 and 3PO. They are a gay married couple, and I don't care what anybody says. It's so funny to see them like get mad at each other and have that like interplay. It's like, come on, guys.
Oh, it's hilarious. Like, one doesn't even talk. And his beeps and still sound like communication that we understand.
Exactly.
It's hilarious when they do that.
And it's like, I hate when people are like, they don't get the joke that they're like a gay married couple. It's like they have known each other for literal decades in this universe.
Yeah.
That it doesn't matter if they're gay or not in the context of like popular culture and what we understand from it. It's just funny, and they give off those vibes. Sorry, that's just me getting frustrated at incels on the internet. But
so
it's
the next big mistake that they did correct, but you now got to see it as they are heading to the Millennium Falcon, and even before this, the lightsabers are rough. They are rough. I forgot how bad they were.
Oh my god! And it's like,
go ahead.
Oh, it is. you see it on the internet here and there. You see like where people point it out where like the door is closing, or you see like the color issues, all that kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, the first time you see a lightsaber, it's like a weird blue-gray when Luke lights his father's lightsaber. And then in the fight, it's like a little rough because you could tell they didn't have the coloring down. So the red and the blue are like a little faded and funky. But then you have Vader walking towards the door and it's just a stick. And it's like, oh, you guys missed that one hardcore.
And what's interesting, they did not fix that in the original 97 release. It was still there for some time. It was only recently, and I can't tell you which version, where they finally colored it red, which makes sense, but it was just a silver stick, and it's hilarious to see Darth Vader walking towards the closing blast door with a silver stick in his hand.
Yes, it is incredibly comical, and it's just a little thing. It's kind of like when you show me when James Caan whiffs that stage punch in The Godfather. It's like you see it once and you never unsee it. It's like it's stuck in your head.
Well, now what's funny is you'll watch it again, the new version, and you'll be like, oh, damn, it's not there.
Yeah, it's...
In fact, the one other small change, which seems so small, but when, again, Han and Chewie are outrunning the stormtroopers, and you hear in this version, close the blast door, close the blast door. Blast door closes, but they jump through it. You don't hear anything else. And the new ones, they then say, open the blast door, open the blast door. And it's just that little more of childish humor. It works either way. It doesn't matter, but it's just funny, that little difference that Lucas wanted. It's funny.
And I do appreciate that. That really goes to enhancing the stormtroopers as idiots. And then it's like, close the blast door, close the blast door. Fuck, open it, open it. And it's like, yeah, these movies were made for kids. They're not meant to be like hyper complex. And the best way I can put it is, yes, Frank Herbert has his comparisons with Dune and Star Wars. I don't get it. I think it's stupid. Dune is meant for adults. It's meant to be mature and complex. Star Wars is not. It's for kids. Yeah, there's social complexity and political complexity, but you have to analyze it and dig deep for that. And you have to remember, it's for kids. You have a freaking droid on like 4 wheels. It's like, burp, 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 burp. It's like, that was specifically designed to make kids go, ha ha.
Exactly.
Chewbacca.
They like one of your favorite parts, when Obi-Wan is turning off the tractor beam.
Oh my God, it's so stupid. And that's just him turning off the tractor beam, which that's a beauty of prop and set design, that they managed to make a believable like central control terminal, and it's just a bunch of flips and switches, but it's like
with no railings.
Oh, no railings. It's like Intergalactic OSHA is not going to be happy about this. God, like you pointed out all the time, there's no fucking railings in the Death Star. You'd think for an empire that like has to like forcibly draft its soldiers and make sure they have manpower, they wouldn't want people falling into the like giant death laser beam. But no, they don't have railings.
But what room has railings? The Emperor's throne room. In the
Shit, you're right.
The only one that I can think of has railings.
The only one that has railings. And it's like, oh my God. And it's, I mean, another thing, it's like you would think a laser that fucking big would emit a lot of radiation, and there is no protection. Like Kyber crystals.
I love how they flinch too. When it goes by, they're like, oh.
It's like, you have a giant freaking death laser beam and people standing next to it, and you didn't think to build, I don't know, like a protective case?
Well, in fairness, they have retconned that because now we know it's Kyber crystals. Well, if the Jedi can walk around with lightsabers and there's no problem, then obviously that's not a problem. Maybe a little hot.
I don't know. I would think, though, that the more, it's almost like bananas. It's like a single banana isn't going to kill you. But if you have like thousands of bananas encasing you, it will kill you with radiation poisoning. So it's like, I feel like that concentrated beam would probably cause like cancer.
I didn't see anybody at the arena in Attack of the Clones with all those lightsabers worried about cancer.
But it's like so little. The Kyber chunks they have are like, we saw it in Rebels. It's like big, so very big.
You're saying you'd rather hold a little thing of plutonium than a big thing of plutonium?
Yeah, because that'll kill me slower.
Oh.
Yeah, at least then I can amputate the fingers. That's a whole other thing. But it's then we get to like the big showcase at the end, the Battle of Yavin 4. And oh, you can tell the green screen was rough on this one.
Most definitely. And there's a lot of scenes that
blue screen.
Yeah, Folks, generically, green screen is the term, but yes, in Star Wars lore, they used blue screen. Anywho,
Yeah.
the scenes that have been omitted, we don't see Biggs Darklighter all excited to see Luke Skywalker, and then having, I can't remember his name, Gold Leader or Red Leader sitting there on the ground talking. We don't have any of that.
And Blue Squadron completely cut because they couldn't get the colors to work, which they retconned in Rogue One that it's like they get eradicated. Which
still,
fun little detail.
Jumping a little ahead, still pisses me off that you have Rogue One and you use Gold Squadron. It's there. Cool. You use some of the footage and the text that they say, dialogue. You can't make Jack Porkins look cool. Like, you could have had him do something badass in Rogue One. No. All we still get is him dying before any starfighters get out there. Just a cannon. I'm all right. Oh, way to go.
If I had a nickel for every time a competent starfighter got hit from the back of their ship and exploded, I'd have 2 nickels. Rest in peace, Plo Koon and Porkins.
Yeah, but Plo Koon was shot by his quote-unquote friend.
That is true. That is true.
I don't know what.
Yeah, Porkins got screwed on that one.
That
but
still
makes
me mad that they couldn't have retconned that in Rogue One. Anywho,
and it's watching the final Death Star battle. It's rough, but it's impressive how little they really touched things up in the end. A lot of it was just fixing the colors and then making sure the blue screen wasn't obvious. And it's like the rest of it, it just looks like what's the modern equivalent. And it's really impressive to me.
A lot. If you rewatch the new version, you'll see a lot of added CG X-Wings. They really do, when they first are approaching and they have the moon of Yavin off in the sort of side. It's just beautiful as the wings come out and they go into attack formation. They have a lot of those that are beautiful. There's a couple with Wedge as he's going around that they've added. And that's the other one that I was thinking, well, the darks needed to be darker because we could see inside these cockpits pretty hardcore, especially the Y wings. And it was like, oh boy, I don't want to see that much detail on this stuff. It needs to be darker because you could see the special effects and it wasn't awesome. Hard to watch. For the most part, a lot of that story is the same. A lot of special effects are the same, which is impressive. Still, to me, is the same emotional pull of Luke doing that final run.
Use the Force.
Love it. That first time we get a Space Ghost. Well, second time, technically. Run, Luke, run. But we get Space Ghost in the form of Obi-Wan, stronger than you'll ever imagine. And then Han Solo comes back to save the day. A lot of the same special effects, little minor things that don't exist that just cleaned it up, like we said. But the next big one was the explosion of the Death Star.
I would like to really quickly add, though, that Vader, I saw somebody do the math on this. He was spinning after his TIE fighter backup nicked him. He was spinning for like a full 2 minutes. So just keep that in mind.
Let's also discuss how most films are not told linearly in real time, like this.
But he was spinning for 2 minutes. It was funny.
When you do a stopwatch. But if you look at it and be like, oh, yeah, he was spinning, got knocked out of the way, then it blew up. Oh, but then we cut back to him. Yeah.
No, I mean, but yeah, he probably just readjusted.
Out of the way of the explosion.
But it's just funny to imagine that, one of the most competent pilots in the universe. But this is pod racing.
So again, we get a firecracker exploding from a ball. And
is
then
it just the same explosion?
No.
Oh, okay, so it's a different one.
Yeah, because they actually use something that looked Earth-like with what Alderaan was to this silver gray ball.
Okay, maybe it's a different one where they reuse an explosion. I can't remember. But it's like it's impressive for its time, but it looks like the Death Star farted out of existence.
It looks bad. And then all the way to the end where we now see a really rough and beat up R2. Yes, we saw it in the new ones, but this one, because of the effects and all that, he just looks even more crappy.
Yeah.
The wonderful matte painted and mannequins in the final metal scene.
It is so. I remember sitting down. We were watching it. I'm ready to see it. I'm like, oh, this is where they have all the extras. It is just a fucking matte painting, and I'm like, oh, Oh,
And I even
somebody
knew that
got
when
fired.
rewatching it. It was like only the people that are on the inside line when they go to clap and all that are live that you see as they're walking down. And I just knew it. And then watching it again, I'm like, oh,
Oh,
that's hard.
it's like, oh God, what the hell am I looking at? I know this is a matte painting and it's beautiful, but like, oh, it's so obvious.
So
Oh,
all in all, the first one, A New Hope, affectionately known as Star Wars, it was a hard watch. I did not have the nostalgia I thought I would have. It was very like, this is literally hard to watch. Again, I can't speak to what the film will look like, but the standard definition version, it was hard to watch. And again, the only scene that I was really still missing was I wish they had not messed with Han just
yeah.
shooting Greedo right away. Other than that, I really, really, really appreciate the re-release in the 97 and the updates since then because it makes it a better story and a better film overall, in my opinion.
Yes, very much so. I appreciate it. I love that I can see all the aspects of filmmaking without the CG. But at the same time, it's like that's a one and done watch. I really don't want to rewatch it because I'll be able to point out so clearly all the effect errors. And it's far less fun when when you can point out what they goofed than when if you can just watch it and have fun with it. And it's like what really keeps it together and why he did such a great job is John Williams' score. It's like it's not as believable if you don't have his score on it, and it really ropes you back in when you're like starting to lose it when you can see the blue screen lines or the obvious cockpit.
That takes us to Empire Strikes Back. Now, admittedly, I had told James there weren't as many changes in this one as there was in A New Hope. There were more than I remember, though. So as we're going through, that really was just touch-ups again, all the way through the beginning. I can't remember anything specific that was like, oh, that was altered until we get to the Wampa attack.
Oh yes, that's definitely one of the bigger changes in episode 5 is that it's like you have added scenes. You just see more from the Wampa.
Yeah.
And it's
because
just interesting.
in this version, you just see Luke struggling, you hear sounds, but in the new one, they actually show him eating something over a little fire or whatever it was, and then they see him, literally moving towards Luke. But in this one, you just see like a bodysuit moving of hair and whatever, and you're like, okay, so I think that was a good addition, to be honest, and I think they did what they could back in the day, and they got the idea what a Wampa was. But seeing it in full body and eating, you're like, okay, this is more menacing. I think that really helped that scene.
Very much so. And you could tell that when we get to the Battle of Hoth, they kind of had their stuff down. There's obviously rough patches of like dealing with the blue screen and stuff. And it's obvious, but it's like it's not as bad as episode 4. And I'm really impressed at the tracking shots they did over the snowy mountains because that is some really impressive work they did to get those cockpit shots. Because it's like they would have had to have flown a helicopter or something to get those shots with the camera, but they made it work, and it's just genuinely impressive for the time.
Well, I was going to say a 1980 camera. They don't have GoPros back then.
No,
so,
and exactly. It's not like it's easy to get that in a flying apparatus, and it's not time lapse because if it were time lapse, you could tell. But it's like it's clearly shot in native time, so it's interesting to see that. The AT-ATs. Basically unchanged. Really appreciate that it's like they did stop motion for that because that really enhances it. Just the Battle of Hoth is really well done, untouched. And yeah, obviously they fixed it for a lot of the visual stuff, but it looks so good even so.
Agreed. And I don't think we really have any major changes that I can remember. You can probably correct me. I mean, there's things that we saw again that we didn't see before as far as the darks weren't as dark, so we got to see things. Black
C-3PO because of the blues.
Yes.
That was jarring. I'm like, is he did they mess up the paint? And then I looked to you and I'm like, is he black in this? And then we both look and he's like, oh yeah, they painted him black because of the blue screens. Yeah. And so it's funny to see like they definitely tried to cheat it. But it's like, it's so obvious that like all his blue panels were painted over in black so that they didn't have to deal with the blue screen.
you talking about R2?
R2, yeah.
Okay, because you said C-3PO. That's what
Did I say 3PO?
Yeah.
Oh shit, my bad. R2.
Yeah, very much so. And that I'm trying to think of other small changes. I don't think I remember any that puts them on the asteroids. We see more of things in this, like the Star Destroyer with the bounty hunters and all that stuff in the background. You just see a little bit more. You see a little more, ironically, detail, but it's not detail you necessarily want to see. Dangar's still stupid. But then we get to a big change.
This is by far one of the biggest changes in all of the original trilogy is just the entirety of Cloud City. And you could tell that what Lucas wanted is not what he got to do in the original trilogy. And so a lot of it is really clever camera tricks. And it's like, I get the changes, but that opening scene where we first fly into Cloud City with the Falcon is still genuinely beautiful. The layering they did with the clouds is so impressive. And yeah, the color grading's a little off, but it's like you still have this beautiful, like, orange pink hues of the sunset, and you have the Falcon flying in. And it's like, it's I don't know how they did that shot, because that's just actually a sunset that they shot. And it's just genuinely impressive. And yeah, it doesn't look great, but it's not bad. And it's such a beautiful intro. And then you don't see the sky ever again until we leave.
But you're getting ahead of yourself.
I am getting ahead of myself.
We forgot about old grandma in the form of the Emperor.
That to me is so funny.
Got to see the original actress as the Emperor, and you got to see the interaction was far less than what they wrote for the new ones.
You don't have you don't have this Emperor voice. Do it. You have just some dude being like, and what of Skywalker? And it's such a different voice to hear out of the Emperor, because you're so used to the do it. And he doesn't sound like that. So you're like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yep. And it's weird because it's literally just, well, if he could be turned, oh yes, he'd be okay. And like, that's not even a long conversation or anything like that. They do mention the son of Skywalker, which is interesting because now that there's 3 movies in front of this to describe what the hell's going on, I'm like, oh, I wonder how that did affect the reveal that we get later.
And the verbiage is so weird to me, because it's like, given all the context, Palpatine knows, Vader knows, there's no need to say this. It's definitely for the audience. But it's so funny to hear that, because it could also be the Emperor kind of just like fucking with Vader, that it's like, because I mean, that's what Palpatine did with Vader and Maul and Dooku, is that he egged them on.
Yep.
But it's a weird bit of dialogue given the context of all the other films. But it's not atrocious, and it's weird hearing not the E kind of voice. And then we get into Cloud City proper. Lando Calrissian.
It was disorienting. Oh yeah, the first introduction is Lando is like awesome. He is definitely a shyster.
You mean my ship?
Oh my god, I love him. Now he's just such a lech for Princess Leia.
And I love Solo because Donald Glover does such a good job as Lando.
And I want to even say, what's his name did awesome as Han.
Oh my god, there's this little scene. There's this scene where Han is walking away with Kira. I want to say Korra, but that's Tron. He walks away with Kira, and he's like, first of all, I would have won. I don't even know how he got that green, whatever it was. They were already all in play. And it's like, that little dialogue is something only Han Solo would say after losing a game to a cheater. Because only Han Solo would play the game like an honorable man and get mad at the dude who's cheating.
Exactly.
And it's like, Lando's a cheater.
The main difference with these scenes, though, are the interiors. Like you said, it's all interior. White
glass
walls.
paneling.
Exactly. We don't see the exteriors like we do in the new one of Cloud City, which it was jarring. I'd forgotten how interior we are and stuck. Whereas when you create those windows, it really makes it opens it up. And I'm not an interior designer or anything like that, but it makes it way more impressive than what this is.
Yes. And I appreciate both, because from a stylistic standpoint, in the original, it makes you feel uneasy. It feels boxed in. It's like something is wrong. And it's a limitation, but it's like to the viewer, it's like something feels off. You can't see the outside. You get one shot of it, and then you're stuck inside. It's a vast, expansive city, but you can't see the outside, and it's really like boxy. So then when you see Vader, and everybody's like, "Well, fuck," it's like that's why everything's so uneasy. But then you get the new one where you can see everything, and it's like, "Oh, this is a beautiful city." And then you get Vader, and it's a complete slap in the face. That it's like, "Oh shit, uh-oh." And so neither are bad. They just convey different visual elements. And I think both really work for what needs to be there. I do like seeing Cloud City because it's such a beautiful concept to just like see in the background.
And then you got to hear something you've never heard before.
Oh,
Boba Fett's original voice.
I don't know if I like it or hate it because I love Boba Fett's new actor. He's awesome. I keep blanking on his name and I feel awful. But it's like, I love him as Boba Fett's actor because then he's done like a decent amount of the Clone work and the Jango Fett and the Book of Boba Fett. And he plays Boba Fett so well that it's like hearing this voice, it's like, who is this guy? Who does this guy think he is?
And that's the exact opposite for me. I'm like, hey, there he is. I love that voice. Versus I would have never in a million years thought a Pacific Islander voice was going to come out of Boba Fett's mouth.
And that's completely fair. I mean, it's two different generations. You grew up with a very different voice from what I got. And it's like, I do see the Mandalorians as something completely different from what you do. And I know there's like a whole sort of continuity fucky-wucky bullshit with whether Boba Fett is a Mandalorian or not. And it's like all over the place. But it's like, I know that culture as like that kind of specific thing. Whereas you didn't get that until they retconned it, reworked it, and turned it into something different where Mandalore is something completely foreign. And I mean, we didn't even know Mandalore existed until they made it a thing. And so it's just very interesting seeing the difference in the voices and how it's like, I much prefer the new Boba Fett voice because it's what I know. I don't think the old Boba Fett voice is bad. It's just like, who invited this guy?
It's just different.
It is. And there's nothing wrong with that. It has its own stylistic choice. But like you've said time and time again, there's definitely things you mishear because of it. Because you've told me this over and over again. You used to hear, he's no good to me, Dad. But it's like the new reading, it's like he's no good to me, Dad. And so it's interesting. It's just like little linguistic things. God, I'm being a huge nerd right now.
And then we also get one of my favorite character reveals of all time. And again, a kid's movie, as this little green creature is fighting with R2-D2 and going through a flashlight. I just love the introduction of Yoda when he's just this big goober. And
think you to see him, I will.
And then they're in the hut and he's like, I cannot teach you. And then you hear Obi-Wan and then you just see Luke. Yeah, idiot. And then he goes, Yoda. And then all of a sudden this little creature is just like this huge legend. And he didn't change at all. Our perception of him changed. It's like beautiful writing.
I love Yoda so much as a character the more I watch. I am so pissed they made him CG in the new movies. I see what they were in the prequels. I see what they were trying to do, but I don't agree with it. It's like I miss Puppet Yoda in episode 1 because it's like, to me, Yoda is perfect as a puppet. It's just that much more believable when you have the little green gremlin as a puppet. And I get it. I get the CG, but it's like I miss Puppet Yoda because he is so much more believable and goofy. And it's like he's Yoda. And I love that they did the puppet in episode 8 because it's Yoda. He's the little puppet guy. And Yoda wouldn't be as effective a character. And this is where I'm going to be a huge composition nerd if it weren't for John Williams and his score of Yoda. I will die on the hill that I believe that the best composition work John Williams did for Star Wars was Yoda's theme. Because you have every aspect of who Yoda is as a character. You have like the little whimsical, like he's a little gremlin dude in it. And then you get I mean, we could play it if there weren't copyright, but you get that moment where it's like the da 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 da. And it's like all of a sudden this little green fucker is like the wisest being to ever exist. And you know, the second you hear that, you're going to get some genuine, like, mind-shattering advice from the little green dude. And it's such beautiful auditory storytelling. And it's such a good character thing because it's like every time you hear it, no matter what's happening, you know it is pivotal to what's going on. And it's going to come from like the goofiest freaking puppet to ever exist.
Well, I'd like to also add, expanding on that, Frank Oz. Yoda would not be Yoda without the genius of Frank Oz bringing him to life.
Absolutely.
Like I've heard many stories where Luke, Mark Hamill, was legitimately talking to Yoda because Frank Oz made him so realistic. And that, to me, if you can't make that puppet alive, that whole section, in fact, it was originally, they were trying to use a trained monkey. No lie.
That would not have worked.
Obviously, it didn't work. It wouldn't work. Well, if the puppet didn't work, not believable at all. We would have been like, that's Yoda?
And they went to the man, Jim Henson, and he made it work. Him and Frank Oz made Yoda. And it's like people point out Michael Caine on Christmas Carol Muppets. He did it because he believed the Muppets were professional trained actors. Tim Curry with Muppet Treasure Island. He believed himself to be a Muppet. And what's so effective is that Mark Hamill splits the difference.
Yep.
He just absorbs himself in the world and sees Yoda as a sovereign living being, not like a puppet with a dude's hand in him. And that's what makes Yoda so believable too, is that not only do you have a beautiful John Williams score, not only do you have Frank Oz voicing him perfectly, you have Mark Hamill acting against him and basically getting pissed at the dude for talking in riddles. And it's just that much more believable.
And again, to the film quality, I didn't realize and remember how many snakes and lizards there were on Dagobah. Oh my Lord. Every shot you're seeing all these creepy crawlies moving because it's not as black as it should be, as dark as it should be. And you're like, wow.
Thank God it wasn't Han who had to go there.
Well, yeah, if Indiana had been there, the other one.
Poor Indiana Jones.
And then the other big one that we see, just the differences, is Yoda in this movie, when he is first introduced to us, is the end result of almost 900 years of life and being a Jedi.
Not look so good when you 900 years you are.
So we get the end of almost at the time, the most perfect Jedi. So when we get retconned or learn more, I should say, of Yoda and the mistakes like the Acolyte or the prequels, where how could you not know? It's because that's not the Yoda we see in Empire Strikes Back. Empire Strikes Back is the most advanced Jedi we have at the time, not necessarily in hand-to-hand combat, but in theory and ability to use the Force. So that has probably been my biggest brain fart messing with my head, is as they've developed Yoda's history, it's been backwards. So it's been like, wait a minute, Yoda's supposed to be this guy. How did he miss this? Oh, well, because he was a stronger Jedi when I first met him versus that guy back then.
And it's like the way I see it is that as he lost less and less like physical strength and he made more and more mistakes, he grew as a teacher and practitioner of the Jedi faith. And that's why I love him so much, because he learned through his mistakes. He messed up. He failed. And that's why he's so hesitant to train Luke.
Yep.
Because it's like Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan failed. And so they are so scared that what they failed to do with Anakin, they feel like will happen with Luke. And so it's like Yoda's like he is far too old to be trained. And it's like he's not saying that because, I mean, in the original context, yes, he's saying it because Luke is too old, but given everything else, he's saying it because he messed up. He felt Anakin was too old to be trained, and look at what happened.
Yep.
And so there's that fear of failure, but then he takes on Luke, and it's like Yoda is truly a tragic figure, a Greek tragic figure in Star Wars, because it's like he saw what was happening, but there's nothing he could do to stop it. And so I love that this goofy little green dude becomes like the backbone of Star Wars tragedy, and then therefore becomes almost the savior of Star Wars, because he messed up so much that he knew how to make it okay.
And what's cool is that line goes through all the way to Rise of Skywalker, with Luke coming back as the ghost, a la Yoda. And Yoda's line, I can't remember exactly what it was, failure. I can't remember exactly what it says.
Failure, the greatest teacher is. I'm
Exactly.
Sure,
and it's like, yeah, dude, that's because you are the ultimate Jedi. And then I would argue that in that movie, Luke becomes the ultimate Jedi, but that's not what we're talking about today. Anywho. So to see Yoda like that and be reminded about how powerful Yoda was when I first met him was interesting, to say the least.
Yes, and it's there's so much to it that goes into it, and it's like I have so much context because of the prequels and the sequels and the expanded lore. So viewing this as its own thing is a very interesting thing to do, because it's like I can't not remove the added context from this movie, because I also know 1, 2, 3 is what George Lucas was setting up regardless. That was going to be that plan to some extent. And so it's like I have a hard time separating the two, because it's like, yeah, I know he had a 12 film plan when he made episode 4. Sure, things got changed around, but it's like I know that these characters were influenced by the ideas he had for 1, 2, 3.
Yep. Which is then interesting as we get to the final confrontation, so to speak. We have Luke and Vader, and I want to get to one real quick thing, because everybody talks about Admiral Akbar and it's a trap. I don't know how Leia got robbed in this, because she clearly screams at Luke as Luke's running, "Luke, don't! It's a trap! It's a trap!" Nope. Poor woman doesn't get her due once again. Give it to Admiral Akbar, whatever. So anyway, we get to, again, most of this is unchanged. Yes, the background scenery at points, but the actual fight between Vader and Luke is pretty unchanged. Cinematography is gorgeous, as we're in that orange and the blacks.
That moment is genuinely one of the greatest bits of cinematography. It's like Rocky Horror Picture Show to me. It's like everything in it, it's goofy, it's a musical, but then you get to that last scene where Tim Curry is singing I'm Going Home, and it's like, okay, who the fuck let the cinematographer cook? Because this is genuinely one of the most beautiful pieces of cinematography ever in a movie that's pretty visually stunning. But then you have this, and it's like, you bring out the cinematographer now?
It's gorgeous, but that gets us all the way to the big reveal. Nothing really changed in there, but we get to the big reveal, and it really hits me again watching this, what it was like the first time seeing this and being shocked to find out the parentage there, versus now, we know from the very beginning that Luke is Anakin's son, thus Darth Vader's son. And it's one of the biggest twists in cinema history. And in a weird just way, Lucas took that away. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just weird.
Yeah, that reveal to me is so iconic. Everybody knows it. No, I am your father. It is something I never get the pleasure of getting to see in that pure, unknown way ever again. It's like the first time we watched Star Wars together when I was a kid, that's the only time I'll ever get that reveal where it's just like, oh shit! But it's like, it's so different now that you have the prequels, where it's like it's known that at the end of episode 3, Padme gives birth to Luke and Leia as twins. And so it's like it completely recontextualized that. But I mean, in the moment, it's like such a like gut-wrenching moment. And it's like, oh fuck. The son of Skywalker is the son of Darth fucking Vader.
And I think that's why it still works to some extent, because Luke didn't know. So to him, it is still a shock.
And it's like, I love hearing the behind the scenes on that, where it's like, I think only Mark Hamill knew. and the actor, the body actor, but it's like,
No,
no.
he was in the script. I believe it was Obi-Wan is your father. So he didn't know the truth. It was literally, and the story goes, Mark Hamill tells it, that George Lucas brought him in and said, there's something in the script. And I think Irvin Kershner was there with him. And there's only 3 people. There's 2 people that know this in the world. Me, Irving, and now you. So if it gets out, we know who told. And so he jokes about never being able to tell Carrie Fisher because, tell Carrie Fisher, tell everybody. And then sitting in the theater watching this at the release with Harrison Ford, and Harrison Ford goes, "Are you kidding me? Like, you didn't tell me that?" And it's like,
yes. I couldn't. And it's like, I love those little bits where it's like intentionally leaving people in the dark, because it's so much more powerful when you have that moment where it's like 3 people know. Well, 4, because James Earl Jones had to read the script.
Eventually have known.
And it's like, in that moment where they're filming, they hit it so perfectly so that when you get it to theaters, and not even the actors knew, it's like, you've succeeded at creating one of the greatest plot twists in human history. I mean, it's the same as like Orpheus turning around to look at Eurydice before he escapes. People still gasp at that moment. Like the new Hades Town musical. I saw a great post where there's a dude in the audience who was like, "No," when Orpheus looked around. And it's like, these plot twists are huge to human culture because they are so integral to our understanding of characters. Everybody knows. And it's not a bad thing, because it means that it is such an ingrained part of culture that we have this special moment where you have this beautiful scene where the embodiment of evil, the person we have seen to be a destructive force of nature, our understanding of him is shattered. And it's just mind-breaking that what we understand is the force of evil is no longer just that. He's complex. There's more to his character than we thought. And it's just, there's so much more to that reveal than a lot of people think. And I love that. Exactly. He has a son. And it's like, he doesn't kill Luke. The fact that he didn't immediately just, it's like he can't kill his own son. And it's just that little tiny thing that it's like, yeah, Star Wars was made for kids, but it's that little tiny thing that it's like, it blows open the complexity of it. And it honestly adds to why Yoda was so nervous to train him and why Obi-Wan was hesitant, because now we understand he is the son of the man who has become darkness. And it's such, like, I mean, obviously the internet has video essays out the wazoo why that scene is so perfect. And it just blows open Star Wars.
Which gets us right after that to another character-defining moment that I think was screwed up in the re-release. But here's the weird sort of Mandela effect. I think they've actually fixed it since then. So it's this weird, like, I think this is the case. I can't verify it, but I know what the original was. So in the original, Luke has this confrontation with Darth Vader.
Well, I mean, lack of arm.
He moves himself off that little antenna and falls. Silently. When I saw in 97 the re-release, he screams, "No!" It's like, wait a minute. This ultimate sacrifice that he just made, not going to the dark side, just became cowardice as he's screaming, "No!" I hated that change so bad. But I think, because I haven't watched the 97 version updated, whatever they have on Disney Plus now, recently, I believe they took it out. So he is not screaming no anymore, which I really appreciate if they did.
Like, honestly, Star Wars can't say this, but it's like, honestly, a fuck you would have been better than a no. And it's like, I don't agree with the decision to add in the no, because it completely removes the not the stoicism, but the defiance Luke pulls in that moment where it's like, I can't win, so all I can do is die a martyr and stop him from doing whatever he intends to do. And it's like this moment where he's like, he lets go. He's willing to die. He's ready to go. because he knows, oh well, this is the only option I have.
Yep.
And it's that moment where he falls and then he's guided into the thing. It's rough. There's obviously an explanation for it, but it's like, I like the explanation that Vader guided him to that tube to let him live. And it's like, you can see the cracks starting to form in Vader's character, where it's like he may or may not know who Luke is in episode 4, but this is where he full on blows it out of the water. And he's like, I honestly think the moment he swipes Luke's hand off, he's like, oh shit, oops.
Well, this is great storytelling and choreography. And he does that out of pure anger reaction because Luke got him on the shoulder. And he's like, ah! And he just comes back and gets pissed.
And it's just a swipe. He doesn't even think about it. And then he stops himself because he's like, oh, fuck. Sorry, kiddo.
Exactly. So now we get more roughness as far as the special effects, the visuals. Again, the special effects are great. It's just the visuals and the transfer that we saw. The Millennium Falcon comes to save Luke. Again, you see the layering of the TIE fighters coming after it. You see the not awesome Cloud City renderings because it's still not as beautiful as the CG version.
Yeah, but I'm so glad they at least had the sunset down because that really kept it visually appealing. Is that I could tell it's obviously Mark Hamill gripping to something on a blue screen. Yep. But the sunset just it's ooh, pretty colors. So at least it's not what the fuck am I looking at?
And then from here on out, as far as I remember, everything was unchanged as far as the escape from Cloud City, Lando and Leia running up against the Superstar Destroyer, and the plan to bring them on. And we messed up their hyperdrive, whatever. And then R2 comes to be the hero. Pretty much all the same. So no real big deal there. We have the same ending, same to be continued. And what's nice is we did not have to wait 3 years. We got it right away as we jumped into Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, this one has some very interesting changes. I feel like episode 4 has the most dispersed changes because it's the oldest, so it needs the most work. Episode 5 has the most dense changes in specific areas because there were obviously parts where Lucas wanted to be ambitious with it, and he made it work, but it needed a little bit more. I feel like episode 6 has 2 key moments where they really needed to touch it up, and that's it. Everything else was just digital enhancement. And it definitely is interesting because it's in the opening moments with Jabba where they really needed to touch things up. And then it's at the end, or it's when they get to the Endor moons where they really needed to touch things up. But it's let's get into the opening of episode 6 with our 2 favorite droids, C-3PO and R2-D2.
Going to meet with their drug dealer.
I love this scene because it's again, it's made for kids, but it's 3PO being we have come with a message. Show him the message, R2. And R2 shows him the message and Luke's I have brought these droids as offerings. 3PO's are you fucking kidding me?
You're playing the wrong message.
This must be the wrong message. No, this isn't
But again, we're seeing 1983, 82 special effects with the projections, and they're still pretty good. Obviously, the touch-up version's way better. But from what we're seeing, it wasn't awful. It was pretty good.
It's nice seeing the evolution of the effects because I really appreciate Lucas as a filmmaker. I definitely, not the best writer, but as a filmmaker and a visionary, I really appreciate the fact that you get to see that he was so excited to finally really realize his dream of making a film that he wanted. And it's I don't agree with the changes, but I am happy to know that he finally got to do what he wanted. And so that's always awesome to see. And it's you even see it in the original trilogy. It's episode 6 is so visually ambitious. And it's never to the point where it's episode 4 where I'm oh God, I don't know if I can watch this again. It's episode 6, I think is the theatrical release I'd be more willing to rewatch over and over again.
Well, and that's the interesting part because I told you this. I'm oh, the speeder bikes are rough. Wait till we get to that. And watching it, I'm oh, wow, these are better than I remember.
It's the tracking shots they did for those are genuinely impressive. And we'll get into that. for now we gotta focus on Jabba being Jabba, because damn, this is the first introduction of Jabba, and as much as the CG in Episode 4 with the new stuff is a good like inkling of what'll happen next, I kind of like that he's just a fat thing that just shows up out of nowhere as a drug dealer, and it's like, oh, cool, it's this guy.
And I can't remember off the top of my head. I think there were 6 puppeteers underneath Jabba working his tail, his mouth, his tongue, his belly, breathing and all that, his arms. It was quite a contraption that they used.
It's impressive, and it's like I can only imagine how sweaty it got under that thing. I mean, wasn't there a thing where Anthony Daniels, the 3PO suit, would like fill with sweat, so they had to like drain it sometimes?
Yeah.
And like so
it's hilarious. They always made that guy in the desert. It's like, Tunisia, how you like it?
I hate it. Thanks. I'm so glad Anthony Daniels embraces 3PO, though. You can tell he loves the character. And it's like, there's like my favorite on-set photo. There's a ton, but I love the one where 3PO has the cigarette in his mouth. And it's like, this goes so hard for no reason. But it's, you have 3PO and R2, and they're playing the message, and Luke is like, oh, these are your offerings. And there's like a little dialogue that's like, we don't know what happened since Princess Leia and Lando Calrissian disappeared. And it's like, ooh, what happened there? And then you get to see
from this place.
And then you see where they come in, and then you see for a brief moment Lando wearing the helmet thing, and you're like, what's going on here? And this is where I really appreciate Solo, because it really dives deep into this aspect of Star Wars. And it's like, people get mad at Solo for things. It's like, no, it really captured what Episode 6 introduced as like the crime lord underground outer rim stuff.
Well, it was cool to see the outfit that Leia wears.
Yes,
is from Solo, and it's like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, not the slave Leia, the bounty hunter Leia.
Sorry, my brain went somewhere else in that one.
Have you seen the meme where it's the dude who plays Cal Kestis being like, oh yeah, Episode 6, Leia's got her best costume, and like the slave one, he's like Poncho.
Nice.
No, I love that one. But that's immediately what I thought of right here. But it's like, just go on.
So we have more omissions than we have additions when we rewatch this. And that's the big musical dance scene that does not exist. Thankfully, it's fun and definitely kiddish, but not having it,
it's like I don't care that it exists, but if it didn't exist, I think I'd be a little happier. Which, I mean, I guess then I could say I care that it exists, but I don't care enough to, like, want it gone. But if it was gone, I can't complain. It's interesting because it's like, I like seeing Max Rebo. I don't want to see the thing with the lips and the bug wings. It's like, I don't know what the hell that is, and I don't want to see it. It's funny seeing it as just like a clay puppet in the background, just like twisting. That's funny. But then the Twi'lek dancer, I love the fact that she came back to work on those scenes for the remaster with George Lucas. That's such a cool thing to do because it's such a minor character who gets killed off, but she came back, and it's like, that's a really cool thing to do.
And again, we get a little bit of more tease reveal that I don't like. I love how that actress came back. I love how she was still fit and toned, that she could look exactly like she did in 83, yes, with green makeup on. But one of the things I don't like is we see her fall into the pit, roll out. We do not see the Rancor yet, but we get the idea that there's something horrific down there. Whereas when she just falls and the bed moves forward, we don't know what's down there. And it's a little more like Jaws, where it's like, oh shit, what's in there?
Very much so.
I prefer that, but I definitely prefer not having the whole dance musical scene. It was only for fun and for kids, and it doesn't advance the story at all.
Yeah, and it's like, that's one of the few ones where I'm like, I really don't care for this. And it's like, I get it. Kids movie. It's one of the few choices where I'm like, I don't think this was a good addition. And I don't.
It was literally George Lucas trying to show what can be done with special effects in 1997, and he created almost a whole digital scene with fake characters. And that's what he was trying to showcase.
Bro was trying to make Animusic before Animusic.
And he did, but I like Animusic better.
Yeah.
Anywho.
It doesn't really work when you have the Uncanny Valley bug woman singing.
Exactly. And we have, again, more things we see in the background, like when they take the droids down and they're assigning them, we see more droids than we've seen before, just because not as dark as it should be. You saw your
I'm so mad my arm guy didn't come back for episode
we
6.
saw Gonk, so that was a
What did Gonk do?
I don't know.
What did Gonk do, dude? Because
feet,
like he's getting his feet burned, and it's like, what the hell did Gonk do for that?
I couldn't tell you, man.
Did bro leak CIA secrets?
So again, we're just going along with the story. Nothing really new. We have some more rough special effects, like Han being unfrozen, and it was like that's some rough layering that they did. And it's not that the current version's all that impressive, but then when you watch the original version, like, ooh, wow, that is not good.
It's like I could probably recreate it with like my phone and Adobe. That's how rough it is. And it's like it's also a testament to current technology that it's so easy to do that now. But it's also like, oh hell no, that is
Which, speaking of what, gets us to the Sarlacc pit. And I forgot how much it had changed until we saw this. We're like, oh shit, it's literally just a hole in the ground with no teeth.
The cruiser scene, the sand cruisers. Oh god, it is. And we'll get to the speeders, but it's like the cruiser scene in this makes the speeders look like gold, like buttery smooth. And it's desert tracking is amazing. They have the dunes in the background, and it's really impressive. But then you have these fuckers on the cruisers, and you're like, I can tell they're not doing anything. I can tell they had a blue screen with the fan off camera, and it's like.
And I swear, there's one character that looks like he's literally drawn in, like animated. It's like
we
don't have the establishing shot of going over the dunes with the banthas and all that, like we do in the '97. It's like we get to the pit, and the pit is just a hole in the ground with foam teeth.
Yeah, and it's like I get that. I see the vision. I like the big Sarlacc pit. It's far more threatening. And it's like, oh, this stinky thing is supposed to like be a torture pod?
Yeah.
Give me the big thing. The big thing is way scarier.
Yeah, this is more like Mad Max, oops, I accidentally fell into it, versus like, holy shit, watch out for these things.
Exactly. And it's I mean, speaking of Mad Max, it's like those were about the same time. And it's like Mad Max knew how to cheat. Star Wars was ambitious, and it tried to cheat. It didn't work that well with this scene. No, but the fight is still a lot of fun to watch, though, because it's like there's a lot of fast cuts, so you're not really focused on the goofy green, the goofy blue screen. You're kind of just focusing on the action. And I will always love Luke, I'm an Olympic diver, Skywalker, flinging himself up the plank, doing that shit. And it's like, you really had to show off, man.
Well, yeah, he's a Jedi now.
I know. That's always funny to me, just that moment. And it's the fight, the lead up to the fight is rough with the visual effects, but the fight itself, you kind of just get roped into it because it's so much fun.
That gets us to the explosion of the sail barge, and that's sort of lame.
and the unceremonious death of Boba Fett, which I find hilarious because if I'm not mistaken, George Lucas hated the popularity Boba Fett got, so he just killed him off because he was like, I don't like this. I don't want to play with you anymore.
Now, there's a select few of us that do know the comic books that came out after that. Dark Empire shows the return of Boba Fett, which was awesome, and that he did not die. And thank goodness the book of Boba Fett came out and really explained and showed how badass Boba Fett is. But yes, that was lame, and he did not die.
No, and it's definitely George Lucas being like, I don't want to play with you anymore. And you just threw him in the Sarlacc pit. But after that, a lot of the visual effects are okay. Black R2-D2 comes back because Luke heads back to Dagobah. Mm-hmm. And Dagobah is beautiful again. And it's the conversation between Luke and Yoda this time. I love this scene because you have Yoda and he's like, do what you must, you will. And Luke's like asking so many questions. And Yoda's like, I'm just going to die, man.
Well, that's the famous meme now I can see why when his kid comes back, why Yoda chose to die versus just having this conversation with Luke. It's like, yeah, exactly.
It's like, shut up.
But and it's funny that he is dying and he's trying to avoid these questions, and he's literally the last person in this galaxy universe that is willing to tell Luke or could get those information to Luke. And he's like, rest I need. Rest.
But
Like,
answer
dude,
me.
he's got to know this stuff.
And it's, I mean, as the scene itself, you can definitely tell it's Yoda's like, he can't give too much information because Luke has to figure it out himself. And you have Yoda's theme playing softly in the background. And it's like, it goes from this like triumphant moment in episode 5 where you hear the theme come in and Yoda's like delivering this wisdom to Luke and he's training Luke, to now this moment of just tenderness where Yoda is dying. He's leaving us. And it's this tender, soft moment with the music, and it just gut punches you because it's like we come to see Yoda as this nigh invincible figure that can be the only one to help Luke save everybody. And he's dying, and it hurts me a little every time I see it because it's like watching Grogu in Mandalorian. It's like he's just a little goober. I love him. It makes me sad when Grogu gets sad. So seeing Yoda die, I'm like, no, Yoda, no, stop, please, no.
We get that, 30 seconds or whatever, where not in real time. This isn't Darth Vader spinning out of for 2 minutes, where Luke is once again all alone in the universe as a Jedi until Obi-Wan's ghost comes back and we realize, okay, good. Just because you're not there doesn't mean you're gone. You're never gone. And we have another amazing interaction between Alec Guinness and Mark Hamill.
I will say though, I do want to jump in. I love the fact that it's Yoda that tells Luke that Leia is his sister, not Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan never tells Luke.
No, he doesn't say that. He says there is another.
But Luke figures it out. But Obi-Wan never says anything.
Exactly. But he doesn't say it's his sister.
That is true.
But then Luke and Obi-Wan are having their conversation, and from a certain point of view escapes his lips, and that makes everything that ever happens in Star Wars a lie or truth. It just depends how you want to interpret it, and it's perfect, especially delivered from Alec Guinness.
What I appreciate is when Obi-Wan is like, the Jedi, you must wall yourself from any emotion. You must cut all feeling off. And Obi-Wan knows way better than to say that to the kid of Anakin fucking Skywalker. And it really makes me think that he said that because he knew he needed Luke to kind of like not want to follow the Jedi. And that it's like he needed to basically antagonize the Jedi to Luke for like a brief stint to be like, no, I trust that you'll do the right thing because I know you can bring Vader back. So I need to antagonize the Jedi and their false understanding of human emotion so that you do the right thing at the right time. And it's like, yeah, Luke was stoic in the opening. And then you see him get frustrated with Obi-Wan here. And Obi-Wan's like, you must wall yourself from any emotion. And Luke even gets like even a little more frustrated. Yeah. And it's like the inverse of the Emperor, where the Emperor eggs on his apprentices to see how strong they can get. Obi-Wan eggs on Luke to know he can make the right decision even when he's frustrated. And
we're getting Obi-Wan at the height of his Jedi power, so to speak. And that's not what we see in the prequels, especially since he's a Padawan in the first one. So all this wisdom we get, I had a lot of confusion when the prequels came out. And then as I'm seeing it more and rationalizing, I'm like, no, it makes sense. He trained in the desert for 20 years, and we've seen that in Kenobi, where he was not the confident Jedi that we see as the old man. Well, he lost everything, and he's coming to terms with it. And after 20 years in the desert, he figured out a lot of what he needed to know.
And he is a master with words. So him saying what he said was all intentional. And it's like, you can tell he was saying it to Luke because he's like, Luke has to evaluate this for himself. He can only deliver the truth to Luke as Obi-Wan sees it. It's like, yeah, so from a certain point of view, that is Obi-Wan's truth. And it's in a way Vader's truth. It is not Anakin's truth. It is not Luke's truth, but it is a truth from a certain point of view. And then him with the Jedi, it's like, yeah, I'm rationalizing this because I have never agreed with the Jedi code. I think it's stupid. But it's like him saying that to me almost is like, Obi-Wan knows the Jedi can no longer exist in the way they did, and that Luke has to rise above that by embracing emotion rather than getting rid of it. And that's where we get to Endor and the conversation between Luke and Vader. But we'll get to that after we go through the speeder bikes and getting to Endor itself.
And I think what I took out of this more so than I have before, because it's really the first time sat down, analyzed, and I understand it's not the presentation that George Lucas wanted, but really understanding, watching Jedi again, you can clearly see a different tone from the first two, meaning A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, and a clear disconnect from Empire Strikes Back. And if you know the backstory, George Lucas was not happy with Irvin Kershner and that he made such a dark toned movie. So when we get to this one and he brought in Richard Marquand, it was definitely more of his influence, more kiddish, more goofy. And we see those sorts of things like the direction of the scene where they're all coming in and discussing the second Death Star and the plan to have it blown up. And it's just kind of goofy. And then we get to the planet and there's a lot of good comedy. And then there's a lot of accidental, like, goofiness comedy.
Was that intentional or not? It's a lot of that. And it's I've seen a lot of discourse, and I do want to bring this up really quick. People are confused why the Death Star was constructed differently, given the new poster for Andor season 2. And I'm pretty sure you know as well, it's like the first Death Star was built in complete secrecy. They didn't need to worry about it being operational and capable of defending itself. So when it was finished, they had a functioning planet killer. They weren't worried about that. The second one was built with the defenses first so that it could defend against ships coming in and trying to destroy it. Obviously, they didn't have them completely done when the Falcon and the Rebels came in and messed with it and blew it up. But it's like the whole point that the laser was constructed first was so that they could defend while it was still being constructed. And I've seen a lot of...
Yeah. That was the whole thing. The Emperor was luring them in so he could destroy the rebellion because it was operational.
Exactly.
And it was a big ploy that the rebels didn't know. Literally, here's the famous one. It's a trap. That's exactly
it's a trap.
He lured them in to be destroyed.
Yes. And I've seen a lot of confusion on that. So I just wanted to bring that up and also say, just watch the freaking movie and you'll pretty easily figure it out. Like, I don't know if you haven't watched it, but like, just watch the movie and it tells you this. And
I think this has been cleared up, but if you're still confused, this is where Mon Mothma talks about many Bothans died. This Death Star, not the first one, not Rogue One, this Death Star.
Yeah, I was gonna say it wasn't a lot of other species in Star Wars. There was a lot of people who died for the first one, just in general.
And it's a bummer that the Emperor just didn't accidentally include a reporter from the Atlantic. Then the Bothans wouldn't have died. They would have been fine.
Those have been some of the best Star Wars memes to come out recently. Are the Palpatine has accidentally added Jar Jar Binks to the Separatist group chat, or Galen Urso and Krennic have accidentally added Cassian Andor to the group chat. It's like so many of those are so brilliant, and it's like, yeah, that would happen.
I do.
But it's we get to the siege of the shield generator on Endor, and this is where a lot of people have a lot of different opinions about things, and it's biggest with the Ewoks. I love the Ewoks. I think they're awesome, and I genuinely love your understanding of them as almost like stand-ins for the Vietnamese. And it's like, it's a very interesting way to look at it, that you have a group of highly skilled guerrilla warfare-based fighters being sieged by people who have no want or reason to take their land.
Yeah, so who is going to fight harder? The people that live there, which are the Ewoks.
Exactly.
And the Ewoks are barbaric. Like, I think people look at them as the cute, fuzzy guys, but at the same time, they're making jokes about why did they have a dress that fit Princess Leia unless they'd already cooked up and eaten another person with that same size? Yeah, because they're savage.
Not to mention the fire pit was built perfectly to support a human. They had a rocking chair for a human. They had clearly had human guests before, and when the human guests were less partial to them, they clearly killed them. It's like it's very much a nobody thinks a spider is threatening until they're told that a spider is threatening. And that it's like, the Ewoks are dangerous. Like, look at the Wookiees. Yeah, I want to give a Wookiee a hug, but it's like, they'll kill you. It's like, look, it's like a bear versus a dog. It's like, we all love dogs. We've grown up with dogs. They're cute and cuddly and we love them. Look at a freaking bear. That thing will kill you. Yeah, I want to give it a hug, but it'll kill you. Dogs can still easily kill you. We just don't think about it that much because we have a different understanding of dogs. And it's the same with Ewoks. They're threatening, but we just don't think about it because they're cute. They're cute little goobers. It also doesn't.
I like how you brought that up, and we talked about this. In the original script, they were supposed to be Wookiees. But the problem is, then you go from having these pint-sized things to these things that are 7 foot, and you need to have sets built. And the original Wookiee planet was basically all their villages were built in huge trees, bigger than redwoods and all that. And we see that in the prequels, but there is no way they could have created that with the technology in 1983. No. So what'd we do? Pint size, shrink it down. We get Ewoks in the Ewok village, which, by the way, Mom and Dad, I never got that toy. Still waiting. Anywho, I am not offended by the Ewoks. Not one day did it cross my mind until people said it. Oh my gosh, these little fuzzy bears, teddy bears, took down the Empire. It's like, yeah, I don't understand the problem. So
I know, right? It's like,
bothered me.
It's like, look at the actual history. Look at the Persian siege of Greece. Greece had like what, 300 soldiers? And then you had the entire Persian army coming in. And those 300 Greek soldiers were like, oh, hell no. And they fought them off. It's like, it's not impossible. The unlikely winners of a war seem to do it every damn time it matters. French Revolution. The working class of France should not have won that conflict in any capacity. And yet they did. The American Revolution should not have won that. And yet we did. Well, Vietnam.
Exactly. And that's what kills me about this scenario is the Empire was prepared for the rebels. They were prepared for Han Solo and his small team. That's what they had planned for. They had no clue that all these other creatures, warriors, were out there ready to fuck shit up. And that's exactly what happened. All hell broke loose against the Empire.
I'm pretty sure there are lines where it's like we've lost troops. Like troops have disappeared on the moon. And it's like they just don't know why. And we figure out it's the Ewoks. But it's like these fuzzy little fuckers are capable of taking down an AT-AT. We see them do it alone. Yep. And it's like they trapped Han Solo, Chewie, and everybody else in the net. So it's like they're not incapable. They are quite competent in destroying heavy machinery and trapping things.
Yep. Exactly. And that's what we see. And I don't want to belabor, but the 2 Ewok adventures were awesome. I know they're not canon, but it shows that the Ewoks are badass and even have magic. So,
yeah. Not to mention, when you have a threat of a lake that traps you, you better be prepared for the worst.
Yeah. So I've never had a problem with that. I, again, love the story. I love how we get there. I love it's a trap. The special effects of the time we brought up the speeder bikes, they actually look better than I remember. I was surprised.
The speeder bikes, it's like a 10-minute segment, but I was fully prepared to be like, oh God, this is going to look like the sand speeders. It's going to be a 10-minute groaner. And then it starts and it's like, this isn't as bad as I thought it would be. It's obvious. It's obvious the camera in the woods is a little rough because it's just a dude running with a camera. And it's like you have the bikes and they're stationary while everything else around them is a little jittery. But it's like you then have the shots where it says like a pan, and they look incredible on the speeders as they pass by. The troopers crashing into the trees are genuinely some of the most impressive effects I've seen in Star Wars with pyrotechnics and then like throwing something at a wall essentially. The California redwood forest is a beautiful place to have this chase in, but it's like even when it's they're stationary and you have the stuff moving around them, some of those shots looked really good. You can barely tell it's blue screened.
And then when we are in the more forgiving light or black of space, all the starfighters and ships that are in that final battle,
oh my
unbelievable God. The special effects they pulled off in this film. It really is.
You can tell it's like where they first had like maybe 3 ships on screen at once. It then became like 8, and now we have 64 moving elements that they had to layer to make it work. And it's like that opening shot where you have the TIE fighters pulling out in front of the camera, and then you have like all the other ships. You have the Star Destroyers, you have the Death Star, and then you have the Rebel fleet. You could tell that's what George Lucas really wanted, and he put everything into that.
And then when the ship, the Millennium Falcon, and I don't remember how many ships are following, A-Wing and the X-Wing go into the Death Star, and the way it goes up over the lip, and then they go in this time in that small space flying through there, the TIE fighters following through, Wedge is there with them. It's like unbelievable. And one of my favorite individual shots of all time is as it's imploding, you see it come down, and the fireball's going through the tunnel, and you see the flames licking the side of the Millennium Falcon, and then the fire shoots out, and we're like, oh my God. And then the Millennium Falcon shoots out, there's Lando, woohoo!
And it's beautiful visual effects for the time. And even now, I don't think they've really changed it that much. It's just that impressive and that good. And
the
it's
only
like,
thing I really know they changed at that point was then the blowing up of the Death Star, which again, the firecracker going off, and it's like, okay, whatever. Versus the concussion, which I don't know who decided that was going to be the way planets blow up now, but it's awesome to see that concussion ring go out, and it really is great.
And it's
gravitas.
It's beautiful. It boggles my mind how they got the inside the corridor scenes. Like, I think we took a minute to like try and figure out how they might have done it, and it's just that's where it's really like. I love the fact that they did that with practical effects, most likely, and it's just so impressive that you get that. And now we got to get to probably like the best string of moments in Star Wars and this film: Luke, Vader, and Palpatine, and the culmination of the 5 films that came before this.
And this final battle with all of them, and I've seen some interesting over the years theories. One of the newest ones that I've seen is that Vader did not block Luke's lightsaber to protect the Emperor. He blocked Luke's lightsaber to prevent Luke becoming Vader. And I was like, damn, that really hit you in the feels, because nobody was there when the Emperor, your favorite line, Sidious, is like, do it. And,
unlimited power.
When he beheads Dooku, and that really is the first moment where he went way too far. Yes, he did it with the Sand People, but that's almost forgivable. This time is like, you killed Sith, which
and then
you have 2 murderers, you kill a murderer, you still have a murderer.
And then the inverse, when Windu is fighting off Palpatine, guess who didn't step in? And it's like, Anakin has been on both sides of that, where he has been the one who kills and the one who didn't stop somebody and do the right thing. So he knows without question that Luke cannot be the one to do this. So him stopping him to save Luke is a very real thing. And the way I look at it is their conversation on that hallway when Luke surrenders, I see it as Vader's gone. Vader is gone. Vader left the second he sliced Luke's hand off, and he was like, oh shit, sorry kiddo, fuck. And it's like, that's when Vader's gone. Anakin came back because it's like, I'm pretty sure when I have a kid, and I hope this never happens in any capacity, but if I injured my kid to that extent, I would feel awful. I don't think I would ever be able to live with it, and I'm sure you would feel the same. And that would probably
do you remember me rolling your fingers up in the window?
That is true.
Yeah, felt awful.
That is true.
Really, really bad.
And it's like that would be so powerful to any parental figure that it would snap Anakin out of it. Vader would be gone. And so it's like Anakin, I feel like it's Anakin the rest of 5 and all of 6. And that it's like he's caught between the two, but it's more like he's pretending to be Vader so that he can at least like get Luke to help him. And the way I see it is when he's like, we can rule the galaxy together. It's like, it's still Vader to some extent, but it's like poor phrasing.
Well, I think you're onto something in that he knew he needed Luke to defeat the Emperor. He couldn't. He obviously has not ever been able to do it by himself, so he knows he needs his son to be able to do it. I mean, that's a
Exactly.
good argument on, and he couldn't, much like Kylo Ren and Snoke, he couldn't come out and say his plans, so he had to hide it, and that's how Kylo Ren did it. But in this way, Vader had to do it in a way that, obviously Emperor is far more powerful than Snoke. So he had to hide what he was trying to do. And I'm not saying he planned for all those things to happen in the Death Star, second Death Star, but it worked the way he wanted it.
I mean, let's be real. Anakin is one of the greatest improvisers of our time. So it's no wonder he was like, well, I might as well go with it. And it's the way I look at it is if Anakin wasn't slowly regaining control, Luke would have been dead. Luke would be dead already, just gone. And it's the fact that there's even any diplomacy between the two in that hallway shows that Vader is fading away. And that you have, there's this moment where it's like, I think Luke says, "Father," and Vader pauses. And you can tell he so badly wants to say "son," but he can't, because it's like he can't give away what he's thinking of.
Well, he did that at the end of Empire.
He did.
He's like, "Father, son."
Yeah. And it's like he's got to he's still got to keep that moment where it's like I can't let him know what's going on, and it's such a powerful moment.
It definitely, that leads us to one of the best lightsaber battles of all time.
Oh my god, I hate people who complain about any of the choreography in 456 because, and I will be a huge literary analysis nerd right now, there is always a point to violence in literature. Episodes 1, 2, and 3, the fights are a spectacle because not only are the Jedi trained, not only are the Sith trained, they are meant to be these epic duelists capable of amazing feats. 456, that art is gone. You have an old man and a dude who's half machine fighting each other, and they are not in their best shape. Luke and Vader fighting each other on Cloud City, you can tell Vader is struggling at points because it's like he's using the Force to make up for the fact that he can't move as fast as Luke does. And it's like Luke isn't as talented a saber duelist as any of the previous Jedi, but it's like the point isn't that they can fight like old Jedi. The point is that it's like they are struggling, and their fight is literally the basis of keeping the universe together. So the fact that they are so heavy with their blades and they're so careful with it is that if either of them loses, it's the end for either side. And that's where you get this final lightsaber duel that's so powerful. It's maybe 3 minutes long, but it's so deep because you have Vader and Luke fighting each other, and Vader can't lose just yet. And Luke just feels like he has to win, so at least he has a chance against Palpatine.
But then we take it up a notch because Luke, I will not fight you, Father. And Darth Vader learns he has a daughter. Yeah. And obviously we get the rage that's coming out in Luke. This is one which was also interesting because, again, the dark sworn is dark. So we got to see more of Luke in the shadows and his reaction and what he was wearing, which you and I both were like, we've read that this is supposed to be a dark brown tunic.
Or like a blue or something. I don't know.
Looks black, so I don't know about that. But
yeah,
Luke loses it on Vader. They go at it.
Oh my god.
Luke is more powerful than Vader at this point.
And I love that moment where you see Luke just go ham on Vader. It's like, and then the scene where it's like, it's like, holy shit, dude, calm down.
You see it in his eyes. It's perfect. It's beautiful. And then you hear the cackling of the Emperor, and he's like, strike him down.
And this is where it's like, this is where you see that everything worked. Yoda's plan, Obi-Wan's plan, to an extent, Vader's plan worked because Luke cannot be persuaded by the dark side because he doesn't bear the sins of his father, but he knows what his father did, and he knows that Palpatine is full of shit. So it's like
when he throws his lightsaber away and he looks at Palpatine and he's like, no, I'm a Jedi, like my father before me. And it's like, Oh my God, that is one of the greatest lines ever spoken. It's beautiful. The arrogance with which he says it gets him electrocuted.
And you will die like him too.
Zappy, zappy.
And
And
it's
again, the birth
I
of a whole
love
new meme when we see Yoda in the second one be like, "Zoop." It's like, why didn't you teach me that?
and it's I love I'm gonna shout out Madison here. I love that she loves the Emperor for just being zappy zappy.
Zappy, zappy.
Oh my god, we would play Battlefront all the time, and that was her favorite thing to do. And I swear she was good at it
Oh
too.
yeah, she loved being
It,
the Emperor.
it was scary. It's like, oh cool, we're gonna play Battlefront. Madison's gonna play. Oh god, I am not winning this fight.
But that gets us to another big change that really pissed me off in the original. To me, it's perfect. We have the Emperor attacking Luke, Vader just standing by watching, really going through the emotions of, am I an apprentice or am I a father? Whatever. And then he finally, Father, please, comes to terms, nods his head, picks up the Emperor, throws him down without saying a word. The new ones, he screams, no. Hate
Yeah,
it.
and it sucks because you have Kenobi now that has him almost completely silent the whole way through. And it really enhances the original theatrical release. But the no, it's like, yeah, I get Anakin might say that, but I also kind of want him to shut the fuck up and just do it.
Yeah, which is how this goes. And I have not really watched Return of the Jedi with a critical eye to the Emperor falling down to his body, spirit, whatever being transposed. It's totally feasible, just like the books and comic books discussed. Yes, I have zero problems with the fact that he comes back, but this is something I did forget to bring up. What were your opinions on seeing Ian McDiarmid as the Emperor for the first time in the movie?
It was jarring because we had just seen episode 5 where you have a very different voice, and then he comes in and it's like, I wonder how people felt in the original theaters because it's like you saw the Emperor, and then now you see this Emperor, and you're like, is this the same person? I mean, no,
I
it's supposed
remember
to be.
it was spaced far apart. We did not have the
Yes, that is
internet to
true.
show us what it was. So it never occurred to me that it wasn't the same person, voice or actor. Just
It
never
is
occurred to me.
it is interesting how different it becomes, but it's like I really like that it's like he gets maybe 5, 10, probably closer to 15 full minutes of screen time, and he just exudes villainy, and
Oh,
he's so good at it.
and it's funny to watch the makeup and all that. And I know it was a projection in the fifth one, so Empire Strikes Back, to what he actually looked like in person. It was like, wow, they made that so much better because it was a weird alien forehead thing in the second one.
Yes.
Wasn't even sure it was going to be human. And then we see what he becomes, and it's like, oh, dude. And talk about a good sport. This is where I love British actors. Like Ian McDiarmid, he came on to be the Emperor in a franchise that was already going to be popular, no matter what he did. Cool. And he made it better. Oh, hey, Ian, what if we used your image and voice and replaced the thing we had in Empire Strikes Back for our re-releases? Okay, cool, George. I'm good with that. Hey, Ian, I got a great idea about these prequels, and you're going to be a big part of it. You want to do that? All right, cool, awesome, down for it. All right, well, we're making this new trilogy, this last trilogy. Don't worry, you're not involved. Just kidding. Hey, Ian McDiarmid, what if we brought you back as the Emperor and you basically controlled all this stuff? I'm down. Let's do it. It's like, for a dude who's only supposed to have like what 30 minutes total, he really made a career out of the biggest bad guy in the universe.
And it's like, I hate people who argue against Palpatine coming back now because there's an interview where Hamill explains why they burned Vader's corpse. And then it's like he explained that it's like bad guys somehow always come back. It's like, weird. It's almost as if the ultimate evil of the universe, who is capable of doing so many things that we see him do, is capable of coming back several times.
And that's where I'm very frustrated at the Acolyte, because I know they announced recently that they're doing some books to beef up that storyline, but that is the explanation to who the Emperor is and becomes, as by way of Shreve Palpatine and Darth Sidious. because that was Plagueis that we were seeing. So I would love more information that's canon, but we'll see what we get.
Yeah, and I definitely look at that as like Palpatine is the slipperiest, snakiest, most vile piece of human, not even human anymore, piece of Sith garbage in the galaxy. He is a cockroach. He will find a way to live. And it's like we see it in episodes 1, 2, and 3. He is so good at manipulating every side of a war that he takes control of the fucking galaxy and then keeps control of it until the rebellion destroys him, and then plays the two sides again as a clone of himself. This man is so impressive when it comes to being like a political nightmare that, yeah, somehow he came back isn't even that far out to me because he's just that conniving.
Well, and I think he's the perfect Sith. Like we see the perfect Jedis as they learned more. Well, the Sith was gone for thousands of years. What do you think they were doing? Perfecting themselves. And this is where I hope it becomes canon. But we have Darth Bane and the Rule of Two, and then a lot of years in between. But then we have Plagueis, and their fault was Bane was too prideful and powerful and literally thought he was indestructible. And this is not canon, but in his trilogy, he felt like he could transfer his body to a new host and continue being Darth Bane. We don't really know who ended up living, but then Darth Plagueis felt like he could cheat death, and that's what he studied and became. And he died because Shreve, i.e. Palpatine, was the one who learned and took all these lessons and became the most powerful Sith that we've ever seen.
Have you ever heard of the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
So
Not so
why would
wise
you be
when I
surprised
killed him.
as a clone? And he was the one who brought the whole clone army into fruition.
It's like there is so much there that connects it together. And I feel like it's just fans misunderstanding it or just not having the greatest memory and getting pissed. And it's like, okay, I get it if you're frustrated because it's like kind of out of nowhere, but it's not impossible. It's honestly, I have more issue with Darth Maul coming back because the whole joke is local man too angry to die. And it's like, so you'll take less issue with the dude who got cut in half coming back, but you're mad at the dude who, with all the technology and access to resources he had, coming back.
Which they prefaced in the damn books, I can never remember, Aftermath, that came out that told the plan of the First Order, the Empire, leaving to go to the Outer Rim, the unknown regions, and now we know as Estegol, and reformatting and reforming so that the Emperor could come back. It was all there.
And it's like the only reason the First Order came to fruition is because the influence of the Emperor had to still exist. I mean, in Mando, they're like the return of Thrawn. It's like Thrawn wouldn't come back unless somehow Palpatine had a hold on any of these people in some capacity. So it's like he was never gone.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway,
but besides all of that,
another big change is again, we see the Death Star blow up and it's a firecracker. But we see it now from the moon of Endor as well, which is the same damn firecracker, which was hilarious.
Yeah, that's the reused explosion I was thinking of.
Yes. So then we get to, I think, pretty much all the same.
It's the celebration.
Luke burns at Darth Vader's body, and we get to the Ewoks celebration and the singing. You finally got to hear the real music. I have no idea why it was ever replaced.
I get the point, but it's like, this is fun. Or whatever it is. It's like, that's way better than the shit they did.
Way better. And I guess the reason why they redid it was because they added all those other scenes of celebrations across the galaxy, which obviously don't exist in this form because it's only Endor. They're not showing.
But they couldn't just
on any of them.
They couldn't just extend the music they had?
I don't know. But then what did you get to see for the first time ever?
I think every movie has its own part that like the new movies changed, and that it's like this holy grail that any Star Wars nerd that hasn't seen it gets the pleasure to see. You have episode 4 with Han shot first. You have episode 5 with Cloud City, and then you have episode 6 with the original actor for Anakin Skywalker showing up as a Force ghost.
Sebastian Shaw, you'll never be heard of again, but thank you for your work.
And it hurts me because I get Hayden Christensen showing up, but I don't get it at the same time. It's like I see the vision. I see the vision, Lucas. I don't agree with it in any capacity. Like, I appreciate Sebastian Shaw showing up as Anakin because it's like, people aren't idiots. They can fill in the gaps. And I get it. You're reverting to when Anakin was a proper Jedi. But it also kind of discredits the entire emotional journey Vader experiences in 4, 5, 6. That it's like, so he wasn't a Jedi at the very end when he threw Palpatine into the pit and then gets his redemption as that looking Jedi. In a way, it kind of backtracks the character arc you get from Vader. And I don't agree with it because it's like, he would have aged and changed. It's not like Qui-Gon. It's not like Obi-Wan.
It's also awkward because we have the older version of Obi-Wan still. Obviously, we have the older version of Yoda still. So why then revert to the younger version of Anakin? On that note, it's sort of funny. That didn't change in 97 because Hayden Christensen wasn't Anakin yet.
Exactly.
I don't know exactly when it changed, but
it was the 05. It was the 05 Anakin. It was the 05 Anakin. So they had another 8 years. So it's like, what the hell, guys?
Yeah. So it's kind of comical how that changed. No, I don't quite understand why. Yes, I get the argument. I still don't understand. Like, I'm glad they didn't take out Alec Guinness and all that.
Oh, thank goodness.
It's just weird, goofy, but that's the ending.
And I love
music.
Yeah. I love the joke Lego Star Wars does with it, where they have Yoda, Obi-Wan, some dude I've never met before, and Palpatine shows up and he's like, "What's up, guys?" And Mace Windu grabs him as a Force ghost. And it's like it really shows that, yeah, Hayden Christensen, I get it. But Sebastian Shaw is just, it's that poetic ending that you really get because you see Sebastian Shaw. Yeah, he's in heavy makeup, but you see him.
That was a different guy.
That was a different guy?
Yeah.
Oh, well, then never mind.
It's funny. The dude who actually played Darth Vader, David Prose, was never seen.
That's right.
And then this dude, I don't even remember who that was seen for there. And then a whole nother dude at the end. It's like, cool. And then they're all replaced.
Well, that's fun. But I appreciate Sebastian Shaw more because it's like we see Anakin has aged, we see he's changed, and we see he is completely reformed. He has gone through that visual character arc we're supposed to see. We see seeing Hayden Christensen is almost a regression of the character, and I just can't agree with it.
It makes sense from a certain point of view because he would have been more robot as Sebastian Shaw because he'd lost a lot of body parts.
That is true.
Yeah, having him go back to when he was a whole person for the last time kind of makes sense.
That is true. I get both arguments. I appreciate the visual storytelling of Sebastian Shaw, but I get the point of Hayden Christensen.
Yeah.
And it's not that much of an issue because either way it's impactful. It's meaningful.
And now it's a fun, nerdy thing that you've seen, so you know the difference. And when people, you can carry that oral history on because literally I've lived with it, so it never occurred to me until we started talking about this and being like, oh yeah, there are a lot of differences, James. Let's just watch them. So that's where this experiment was born from.
If I don't get that CD box set in the will, I don't know if I can consider you my father anymore.
Well, you're going to have a bigger problem. You need to keep a technology to be able to watch them.
Oh, don't worry. I have the PS3.
Well, that's what I mean. You need to make sure. We still have VHS tapes, and I still have a VHS player. Always have to have.
Oh, believe me, I'm going to be the dude when I'm like 40, and that technology is almost 100 years old. I'll be like, oh, hell no. I'm not getting rid of this. This is good stuff.
So what he's saying is he imagines 40 being old, and I'm 7 years past old.
I am saying the relative age of the technology.
Oh. Need a nap.
Cry about
Anywho, so that is our review, breakdown, retrospective of the original versions of A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. Again, standard definition. We did not get to see anything fancy at all. and we certainly didn't get to see it on film. I do not know of a high quality transfer that exists of those originals because Lucas legitimately wants them dead. And then the British version they're showing is one of the original film versions that they had. So I'd be curious to even see and hear that because it's going to be completely different. Again, I almost guarantee it's in the contract with Disney. They are not allowed to show those. That's why I was shocked to hear it was coming out. But then hearing it was more of a film retrospective than it is a official release made more sense. So if you have an opportunity, it is a lot of fun to go back and watch these unaltered, uncut. We didn't even mention the fact when Star Wars started, there was no A New Hope. There was no Episode 1. Didn't say anything about that.
Oh my God, the title card was so weird. I'm so used to seeing Episode 4, A New Hope, and it's just Star Wars. And it's like, that's a weird one. And then you get to 5, and it's Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, and it's like, I feel bad for the people who went to the theater and were confused to high hell at what the fuck was going on.
Well, when they saw the popularity of the first one, they did go back and re-release it several times before 1980. Yeah. And in the re-releases, they did put in Episode 4. So there probably were, again, there wasn't the internet to explain, wait a minute, why does this all of a sudden say Episode 4? But that made sense quickly with 5. And they were a series of comic books coming out at the same time. And a wonderful novel called Splinter of the Mind's Eye, which has Luke and Leia getting it on, in so to speak, where they're trying to hide their romantic wants, so to speak.
Don't worry, guys. It's one of the ones that should be non-canon.
Yeah, it is obviously not canon anymore. But yeah, it's a different way to look at the world of Star Wars, and it's interesting to see how it's evolved and how all the other Star Wars stories that come out since have really made this make way more sense. And it really is one of those happy accidents where Star Wars became perfect over time. Yes, I know there's a lot of detractors still, but it really became the universe it is over time. It was not built in 1977.
Yes. And I'll never forget, every time it happens, my favorite line in all of Star Wars. Now, that's a name I've not heard in a long time. Of course I know him. He's me. I don't even know what George Lucas was on when he wrote that, but it's like, I don't know how Alec Guinness got through that line, but he did, and it was brilliant.
Yes, Alex Guinness. It was nice seeing Alec Guinness again as Obi-Wan. I love Ewan McGregor, but Alec Guinness is and always will be the original, and Ewan McGregor definitely took it up a step, but it's Alec Guinness really made Star Wars what it is because his looks, his speech, everything was perfect. You needed that. Really,
he is the backbone of Star Wars. Like I've said so many times, and I'll die in this hill. Without those little reactions he had, you don't get Star Wars. You don't get the basis for the prequels. You don't get the sequels. You don't get everything in between. Because Obi-Wan is the linchpin, the hinge that all of Star Wars lies upon. And it's like, whether the writers were following that, or that was Lucas's plan to have Alec Guinness kind of have that uncertainty in there, it doesn't matter. Without Alec Guinness and his acting, you don't get Star Wars.
So my review at the end of the day is that it was fun to watch. I will probably never watch it again. I will take the prettier CG infused version, even though I lose Han shooting without Greedo. And I have to watch the added Jabba scene, and I have to watch the musicians, Max Rebo with the weird bug lady, and the nose. I will watch those a million times over because they are just easier on the eyes. This was a rough watch, which I was surprised. James, what's your final review?
I like being able to see the filmmaking aspect of it, but I do agree it is a rough watch. When I have kiddos, and I hopefully get to watch this with them, this version with them, that'll probably be one of the last times I rewatch it. I may rewatch it here and there, at least episode 6, because it's the most visually easy on the eyes because it's the most advanced of the 3. But I think for what it is a beautiful look into the history of Star Wars and how George Lucas progressed as a filmmaker and how technology progressed. It's a wonderful and excellent course on history. And I love how I get to see the different aspects of filmmaking and how it all got put together. And the stupid droid with the fucking arms that's like, why the hell does this thing exist? It's goofy, and I love it because of that.
So let us know what you guys think. Have you seen this original version? Were you old enough to actually see it in theaters? Have you seen the DVD version so you know what we're talking about as far as the transfer not being beautiful? I have the VHS tapes somewhere, but I decided not to go back that far. So, anywho, let us know what you guys think. And if you are of the generation that didn't even know these existed, let us know what your thoughts are. And have you seen some of these scenes? Do you know what we're talking about? We love talking Star Wars, so talk with us.